3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the 8 local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and as always, streaming on YouTube. 888-710-4ISN is the number to jump on in. 888-710-4476. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Nathan Zegura is going to join us. Does a great job in the Browns radio booth. He's going to stop on by, and we'll get his thoughts on Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel, Mason Graham, and many others joining the Dog Pound in Cleveland, as Cleveland is now the most talked about team since the NFL draft. You know, I was perusing social media yesterday, and I saw an Instagram post that George Kittle was at WrestleMania, which was in Las Vegas. And I'm scrolling through George Kittle's Instagram on this, 7 or 8 slide post. And at slide 6 or 7, I see our guy Sully with George Kittle in Las Vegas at Piero's. So I know a little history here on Sully. Earlier this offseason, he was hanging with Max Crosby. Week later, Max Crosby got paid. George Kittle hanging with Sully. And shortly after that, George Kittle wakes up today and they agreed on a new contract, the 49ers and George Kittle. 4 years, $76.4 million with $40 million guaranteed, and it makes him the highest paid tight end in the NFL. So I'm just looking at this. Max Crosby hangs out with Sully. Max Crosby gets paid. George Kittle hangs out with Sully. George Kittle gets paid. Zach Gelb is going to Las Vegas this weekend. I'm going there Thursday. I'm going to see Sully. I'm going to Piero's. So I may be getting a record-breaking deal. Now, I'm not going to hold my breath in terms of thinking that's going to actually happen. And I know you could say Max Crosby, George Kittle, Zach Gelb, which one does not belong? And I'm very comfortable in my own skin, and even I will say I don't belong in that conversation. But I'm just following the Sully train, the Sully Bucks, because it is unbelievable how Crosby and Sully, I see an Instagram post, boom, Crosby record-breaking deal. Kittle, Sully, Instagram post, boom, Kittle gets a record-breaking deal. And Sully isn't an agent. But if I was an NFL player and I'm looking to get paid, yeah, I'm hanging on out with Sully in Las Vegas, because not only is it going to be a good time, you're going to get a good meal, and then you're going to get millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars from an NFL team. I'll get back to this Kittle contract in just a second and what my expectations now are for the San Francisco 49ers and what it means for Brock Purdy. But I look across the other way, and Stuart Kovacs is back from Chicago. So, Stu, a few questions for you. Later on in the show, we will get into Chicago pizza.
Ooh, yes.
Did you have a few different spots in Chicago?
I did, yes. The deep dish spots, yes. A few spots I tried.
Illuminati's, did you go there?
Yes.
And what was the other one? Do you remember the name
Giordano's, which is more of like a chain, but
Giordano.
They say to go there, so
okay.
I did.
And you went to a Go Cubs Go game?
Yes, that was the number one thing on my list, and I did go to Wrigley Field finally.
And I will say, I was very jealous of your Instagram page. Now, Stu didn't really respond back to any of my posts, but anytime Stu had a story up...
I thought I hearted a few of them, or...
Yeah, but that doesn't really count. That's like, oh, I don't really give a rat's ass about you. I'm on vacation.
No.
Stop bugging me. But I was very jealous of your little trip to Chicago, and you were at a Cubs game... And what they do, a baseball bat, and they fill it up with like 3 or 4 beers. Is that right?
Yes, they do it's like a hard plastic baseball bat. It's probably like 2 feet high. Yeah, it's great. Filled with beer. Amazing.
You usually are a happy person. I don't think I've ever seen you happier than the photo that was posted of you sitting at the Cubs game with a big old bat of beer right in your hand.
It was amazing.
You looked as if the Raiders finally did something positive and were able to make the postseason or something like that.
Yeah, which is not realistic. But this was realistic, and this was fun. And Wrigley was a dream. I absolutely loved that stadium. Just amazing.
Now, you were here Friday, right?
I was here Friday.
So, sorry, some people say you get so much vacation time. It's kind of tough to keep up with all these days that you go off of. But I remember talking to you, actually, now that I say it, about Ashton Genty going to the Raiders on Friday, and you were happy because you thought a few weeks ago you were going to get Genty, and leading into the draft with all this smoke about the Jacksonville Jaguars, you didn't think you were going to get Genty. Little did we know Jacksonville was moving on up, and they were going to the number 2 pick, and they ended up getting Travis Hunter, and now you got James Gladstone and Liam Cohen just throwing their brass cojones on the table to start their tenure as GM and head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars in Duval. But we did not get to speak after what transpired not only on Friday, but also what transpired on Saturday. Because the Raiders had 2 picks towards the end of the third round. I think it was like 98 or 99 overall. And we talked about at one point that if Shedeur was on the board at 6, you wanted the Raiders to take him. Now, leading into the draft, that take did change a little bit because we started to get the sense that Shedeur was falling. Now, I don't think anyone thought he was going to fall to the 5th round. I thought at most he would fall to the 2nd round. I was shocked he was still available in the 3rd round. But when the Raiders had 3 different picks in the 3rd round and said, thanks but no thanks, thanks but no thanks, thanks but no thanks, 3 times on Shedeur Sanders, what was your reaction, you being the degenerate Raider fan, or should I say resident maybe Raider fan, on this extravaganza? Or both may apply when your Raiders passed on one Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, I was disappointed because as someone who wanted him in the 1st round and to have the chance to get him, multiple more times. At that point, it would have been 3 or 4 times having the chance to get him, and they still pass on him. And then the next day, they take a North Dakota State quarterback who knows, could eventually be something, but probably not. I just think it was just a missed opportunity. And I know all the stories about, the pre-draft interviews and all that, but I don't know, man. I just feel like he's going to be a very good quarterback. It's just worth the risk at that point, 3rd round.
So I 1,000% agree with you. I said yesterday I was disappointed with the Steelers. I was disappointed with the Las Vegas Raiders as well. The Saints even. Tyler Shuck at 40. You're going to go Shuck over Shedeur Sanders. At least some people had Jackson Dart as the 2nd best quarterback in this draft class. Brian Daboll loved him, so at least you really kind of sucked up to your head coach there who's on the hot seat, and Joe Shane and Brian Daboll go back together from their days in Buffalo, but I still will stand by. I thought the Giants should have drafted Shedeur Sanders over Jackson Dart. But when you're sitting there, it's one thing, 1st round, you don't take him. Even the 2nd round, I would have taken him. But when he's sitting there in the 3rd round, and remember, the Browns even passed on him in the 3rd round because they ended up taking Dillon Gabriel, the team that ultimately drafted him in the 5th round. I thought that was the disappointing part. But looking back at the process, Stu, you talked about it. We heard a few of those reports. Oh, doesn't interview well. Worst interview ever, one longtime assistant coach told Tom Pelissero. I didn't really believe those reports, and I thought a lot of it was hogwash. Hand up, I ended up being wrong on it until during the draft, I had people that are involved with teams in the NFL when I was reaching out to them, and also some of them in an unsolicited fashion because they saw some of my stuff on social media where I was like flabbergasted by this thing. At night, they did reach out to me, and all of them said, in a variation of ways, these were like the main things they were talking about, but all the same route where they said the interview was bad, entitled, and came off as unlikable during the draft process. So when you have someone that I think we could all realize, not your typical 1st round talent, but I think someone that should have gone in the 1st round, someone that is a good quarterback, and there are questions if he could be elite. There are doubts that he could be great, right? And there's skepticism there. And you get past the 1st round, you get past the 2nd round, or if you get past the first 2 rounds and you're drafting someone, it's really the idea that they're going to be a backup. And a lot comes with Shedeur Sanders, fair or not, where he doesn't feel like a backup. But still, with that being said, if he landed, let's say, in Pittsburgh, he's probably not starting because Aaron Rodgers is going to go there. Maybe that would have taken him out of the running for Aaron Rodgers. If he did go to the Saints, yeah, we'd have a chance to start right away because let's say they didn't take Tyler Shuck. Derek Carr's banged up now with the shoulder, and we still don't know what the truth is on that. And you got Spencer Rattler in there. But a team like the Raiders, if they do take him, Geno Smith's their guy for now, but there would have been pressure anytime Geno Smith had an average game or a below par game because people would have been saying, hey, or below average game, let's go get Shedeur Sanders in there. But now he goes to the Browns, and in a weird way, I think you could argue it ended up being the best landing spot for him because of the fact you look at that quarterback room, you could only take 3 guys, right? You're only going to go into the season at most with 3 quarterbacks on the active roster or on the 53. And when you look at the guys that are there, and I don't know if you agree with this, Stu, but Samter and I were talking about this yesterday. So Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel, Deshaun Watson. Throw Deshaun Watson out. He's never playing again for Cleveland. And also, let's just be real about it. he isn't going to be healthy enough to play come week 1. So when we looked at the odds yesterday, Joe Flacco had the longest odds to be the week 1 starting quarterback. And then I think it was Dillon Gabriel was 3rd, Shedeur Sanders was 2, and Kenny Pickett was 1. So I said this was my take yesterday, Stu, and I'm curious if you agree with it. I think Dillon Gabriel as a 3rd-round pick is going to be on the team. I think Shedeur Sanders as a 5th-round pick, and really everyone knows Shedeur shouldn't have been a 5th-round pick, he's going to be on the team. There's a competition going on. Don't get me wrong. You have to take that competition seriously to at least bare minimum get one of those backup spots. And with how Shedeur didn't take the draft process seriously, we'll see how he competes when everything is not set up for him to start. But as long as he puts his head down and does the work, I think Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders are going to be on this team come week 1 in September, barring an injury, right? So it kind of looks like the quarterback battle really to make the roster is between Joe Flacco and then Kenny Pickett, Stu. That's the way that I interpreted the situation. How about yourself?
I would agree with that. Even though they, 5th-round pick is a 5th-round pick, they're not wasting that pick. They're not going to, have Shedeur around for training camp and be like, goodbye. Mm-hmm. Like, he's going to be on the roster. And so is Gabriel, obviously, too. So I would agree. Yeah, Watson, definitely not. And then probably Pickett or Flacco. Yeah, it's between those two guys. I would agree with that.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that Vegas right now is giving the favorites in terms of the odds to one Kenny Pickett, which they did trade for him where they just signed Joe Flacco. So the news today, as we once again do our obligatory information, and we have to get into everything about Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns because we're not doing our job as national radio hosts if we don't talk about Shedeur Sanders today. But the news that we're supposed to start the show with was George Kittle getting a extension, 4 years, $76.4 million, $40 million guaranteed. And Ian Rappaport says it makes him the highest paid NFL tight end. So that's another domino to fall. Remember, some people had to get thrown off the 49ers ship this offseason to make room for these contracts to go down. But the last domino to fall is still Brock Purdy. And the expectation is that Brock Purdy's going to get a contract where it's $50+ million a year. So I would imagine that this Brock Purdy news, now with the draft done, with OTAs right around the corner, you get into the summer, you get training camp. I would like to think, and I do believe that the 49ers are going to get a deal done with Brock Purdy. I don't know if they're close, but I still can't imagine that they're that terribly far away with all the conflicting reports that we've heard, because I think the 49ers know they're going to get a deal done, and maybe it's just, okay, when does the Brock Purdy camp either come around, or more importantly, when do the 49ers just realize they really don't have a lot of leverage here, and they're just going to give Brock Purdy and his camp and his representation whatever he wants. Either way, though, I'll ask this question. What are the expectations for the 49ers this year? I don't think it's to win a Super Bowl. Now, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch will tell you that. I don't even know if I could tell you that they're going to win the NFC West. I think they're the second best team in the NFC West. But right now, if you tell me who's going to win the NFC West, I would lean the Rams over the 49ers. If I look at the San Francisco 49ers this year, I think the expectation, and it shows you how they're not as strong as they used to be, it's to be a wild card team and make the playoffs, and then you take it from there. And I think that's a fair expectation. But I said this numerous times through the offseason, with the way that the 49ers are built right now, I think the 49ers are closer to missing the playoffs rather than getting back to a Super Bowl. But if they get in the dance, they're going to be dangerous. They're going to be a tough out with all the experience that they have and how many deep runs that they've gone on through the years with a different variation of players, but a lot of them still being there, even with all that they had to get rid of this offseason to give out these new deals and also to eventually make it in line for Brock Purdy and get all their ducks in a row so Brock Purdy can get a new contract. But this team, they had a Super Bowl window. Can they still find a way to get back to another Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl? Yes, but I think it's rather unlikely. And if you ask me, Zach, what's more likely, the Niners miss the playoffs altogether in a deep NFC, or if they find a way to make the Super Bowl? I would take the first part of that rather than the latter. Yeah, the former rather than the latter, where I think it's more likely they miss the playoffs than make the Super Bowl. But ultimately, if you say, Zach, what is your level-headed fair expectation for the 49ers? I would say that they're going to be a wild card team, probably like the 6 or the 7 seed. And then whoever is the 2 or whoever is the 3, they're not going to be jumping for joy going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Nathan Zegura is going to join us next, part of the Browns Radio Network. We'll get his thoughts on all going on in the land with Cleveland as the here we go Brownies, here we go, hoo, hoo, are the biggest topic of conversation from the 2025 NFL Draft. Off and running, busy Tuesday, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Tuesday, following the NFL draft that did conclude on Saturday, and we're still buzzing about the Cleveland Browns. They finally did take Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, got Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round. And if you can even remember, on Thursday, they started the draft off with a bang at pick number 2, where they traded back. They ended up getting Mason Graham at 5, and Travis Hunter, who we thought was going to Cleveland, ends up going to Jacksonville. Nathan Zegura does a great job covering the Cleveland Browns, and he's a part of their radio broadcast as he's in the booth as their color analyst, and he's kind enough to join us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Nathan, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this, and how you been?
My pleasure. It's been a whirlwind, a wild kind of weekend here for the Cleveland Browns. A Saturday unlike any I can remember in my 13 years doing Saturday draft radio for the Browns, with the addition of Shedeur Sanders. But I think a good draft. I can tell you the building's energized over what they got, and not only the players that they added this year, but the fact that they got a future first-rounder in 2026 as well.
It was a wild kind of draft process the last 3 days, because in the build-up to it, there were legitimate conversations about a month ago about the Browns taking Shedeur Sanders at 2. Then everyone kind of zeroed in. It was going to be Travis Hunter. We know they make the deal where Travis Hunter goes to Jacksonville, and then you look at Mason Graham winding up in Cleveland. But how about just on Saturday, when the whole world is looking at Shedeur Sanders, waiting to see where he goes? Cleveland in the 3rd round takes Dillon Gabriel. Like, was anyone actually thinking at the 5th, round selection, they go and make the move at 144, that it was actually going to be Shedeur? Like, was that on your radar when you guys were sitting there in the facility?
No, once they took Dillon Gabriel, that really was not on my radar. I knew that the Browns certainly like Shedeur Sanders, and I think it's pretty clear based on what happened that, a lot of people around the league, and basically everybody who does this for a living, had either a 1st or a 2nd round kind of grade on Shedeur based on his tape alone. And then now a lot of the stories are coming out, but basically it was he kind of had a brutal pre-draft process. And so he falls. Once they took Gabriel, I probably thought they were done at quarterback, but I remember I was on the air. We had our director of player personnel, Dan Sagan. He was in studio with us. Now, he was obviously privy, because as soon as the 4th round ended, the Browns had kind of made the decision, like, okay, well, let's go get him. So he knew it was coming, and while he was in the studio with us on the air talking about the Dylan Sampson pick, Browns were on the clock. We're like, hey, we're on the clock now. And he kind of shot me a look, and he knew I was a big Shedeur Sanders fan from the tape. So he kind of shot me a look and was like, I probably should go. So he goes into the war room, and I remember I looked at our producer, Jason Gibbs, and I looked over him, and he looked at me, and his eyes kind of like bugged out of his head because he was on the, the NFL system. And I was like, no way. And he's like, and then I was like, oh man, here we go. So I like it. Look, we need a quarterback. That's been the problem since really Bernie Kosar was under center for the Cleveland Browns. And, they love Dillon Gabriel. Kevin Stefanski loves Dillon Gabriel. You see how he would operate this offense and fit into it. And then Shedeur Sanders, is a very gifted, very productive player, the all-time leader in completion percentage in college football history. So I think they were thrilled to get these guys, and now you're going to have a competition. They brought Kenny Pickett in as well. So you got 3 young guys on rookie deals. Kenny Pickett, a former 1st rounder. You got Shedeur, and now Dillon Gabriel, who you spent basically a 5th round, a 3rd round, and then a 5th and a 6th round on. So you got 3 bites at the apple to see if you can find somebody.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought he should have been a 1st round pick at some point. I understand with what was been told about the pre-draft process why he falls to the 2nd. I thought it was nuts after he fell through round number 3, and then ultimately he goes in the 5th round at 144. But you look at the destination, like you talked about, the other quarterbacks really on the roster, because forget about Deshaun Watson. You got Joe Flacco, you got Kenny Pickett, you got Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur. I think this is a good opportunity where we're going to see at some point this year Shedeur Sanders start games for the Cleveland Browns, and he could end up being, if he plays up to the talent and he gets through some of the pre-draft problems and learns from that, this could be the steal of the draft for the Browns.
Absolutely, and that's why it's a very minimal risk and a tremendous upside selection there. I'm with you. I think it's up to Shedeur, right? If Shedeur Sanders comes in here and maximizes the gifts that he has, I think there is a good chance that he will start some games. I know that the Browns think Dillon Gabriel's capable of starting games. We saw what Joe Flacco did in his time here, but I think if you're looking at a longer horizon, a guy in his 40s is not the long-term answer, and the Browns certainly would love to find that long-term answer. Kenny Pickett's 15-10 as a starter in the league, but this is going to be a really interesting offseason. There are only so many reps. And that, I think, is going to be the real challenge is how do you divvy up these reps to get these guys ready, give them a shot to realistically really compete against one another, but also have your team be ready for the start of the season. But, yeah, this could be a transformative draft for the Cleveland Browns if either Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel ends up being that guy, or if the pick they sent for Kenny Pickett, ends up being that guy. But that's kind of, I think, the thought process behind it. We don't have one. Let's get another. We really, really like this kid's tape. As you said, first round, the people that were, quote unquote, his tape detractors. I talked with Greg Cosell, who I respect as much as anybody on planet Earth. He's an early second round pick. But that was like the bottom end of it, and you get him at pick 144, so why not?
So let me just ask you this, because we were talking about this, Nathan Zegura, before you came on. Forget about Watson because he's hurt, and I don't think he'll ever play again for Cleveland. But you look at the four other quarterbacks. Flacco they signed, Pickett they traded for, and they just drafted Gabriel in the third round, Shedeur like we're talking about in the fifth round. I would be surprised when the season starts if Gabriel and Shedeur aren't on the roster. Is the competition really to see who that other quarterback is that they take, who end up could being the starter, really between Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco in your estimation?
I think it's probably too early to say that, but I think that, I think when they brought Joe Flacco in, they thought they were going in this draft with Kenny Pickett, Flacco, and they were going to draft Dillon Gabriel. That was basically the Browns' target in this draft. Once they knew they couldn't get Cam Ward, that was the guy they wanted, and that's why they took him. They took him, obviously, a little earlier than I think most people thought he would have gone. But one thing people need to remember is when they made the trade with Jacksonville, they traded down about 20 spots in the fourth round as a part of that deal. And I think if they had 94 and 105, then they're probably – maybe they take somebody at 94 and they get Dillon Gabriel at 105. But once they dropped all the way down to 126, they thought, let's not wait 32 picks. We really like Dillon Gabriel. Let's take him. So they get Dillon Gabriel there. As far as the quarterback competition, I asked, Kevin Stefanski about this yesterday. I was able to do an interview with him for our draft review show here. We'll see how it plays out. I think if you're looking big picture, you'd say, well, we got three guys that we want to see. Why would we play a guy in his 40s? But Joe Flacco is, quite frankly, he is a hero here. I love the guy. He was great for us. We had that magical run, obviously, at the end of 23 when he won 4 straight games, get us into the playoffs. Flacco fever was running wild. He was so productive. So there's that element to it. Maybe they keep 4 quarterbacks. I was actually joking with Coach Stefanski about that yesterday, and he said, has anybody ever done that before? I said, I don't think so, but you never know. I think you kind of have a right read on that. My guess is, right now, if one of these rookies can come up and seize it, they'll get an opportunity. But, they like Kenny Pickett here. Kenny Pickett's 15-10 as a starter, as I said, 7 game-winning drives. The offense that he operated in, while his numbers are not great, was, Matt Canada was kind of roundly considered to be one of the worst offensive coordinators in the league. He's no longer obviously employed in that capacity, and they think he's a good fit. What you see with the 3 themes of these quarterbacks is, accurate, good decision makers, tough. And if you can be that in this offense where it's going to give you, now that we drafted Judkins, we drafted Dylan Sampson, I would not rule out Nick Chubb's return as well. You're going to get back to running the football. You're going to get back to that under center play action boot game that is Stefanski, McVay, all of Shanahan, that type of a system, the old Kubiak system. And I think that all 3 of these quarterbacks, if they win in the same ways, or if they're going to win in the NFL, be successful, it will be the same way. From the pockets, making these reads, being accurate and on time with the football, and then being tough. And they think all 3 of these guys have that. And we'll see. We know Joe Flacco can do it. We've seen him operate this offense and throw for 300 yards 5 straight games.
Why wouldn't you rule out a return for Nick Chubb, just out of curiosity?
Because Nick Chubb is in many ways kind of the heart of this. He's beloved by our fans. He is beloved by this organization. And I think that there are a lot of people that want Nick Chubb in this organization and outside of it, fans of the organization, that if Nick Chubb is playing football in the National Football League, they want him to be doing it as a Cleveland Brown. Like, I'm sitting in my studio right now in the headquarters. I look to my left. There is a mural that is, 8 feet by 20 feet or 10 feet by 20 feet of Nick Chubb, like that is on the main hallway of this building. So that he is beloved here. And I think if there's a way that they can offer him a compensation package that he would be happy with, and I know he would like it as well, that he will be a Cleveland Brown still. Even with the young guys.
Yeah, wrap it up. Nathan Zegura does a great job in the Browns radio booth on the Browns radio network. Getting back to Dillon Gabriel. So my pre-draft rankings, I loved Cam Ward 1. I had Shedeur Sanders 2. Then 3rd, I had Jalen Milroe. I actually put Dillon Gabriel 4th and then Jackson Dart 5. And I got a lot of blowback and pushback. Oh, how could you put Dillon Gabriel as 4? So I'm someone that's pro Dillon Gabriel. What do you think, or what's your understanding of why the Browns loved him so much, where you were saying after Cam Ward, he was their second quarterback on their board?
Yeah, he was the target. He wins the way that Kevin Stefanski, at least in my understanding of him, wants a quarterback to win. Great decision maker, accurate from the pocket, can throw on the move in both directions. He's very tough. They love his pocket movement. And one of the things that Kevin Stefanski told me was, we kept watching the tape. We kept being like, where does the height show up? Because that's the knock on him, right? If Dillon Gabriel's 6'3", he probably is the number 2 pick in this draft, to be perfectly honest with you, everything else being the same. He started more games than anybody in college football history, 63. In 3 different programs, he's had seasons where he's thrown for 30 touchdowns with 6 or fewer interceptions. He's thrown more touchdowns than anybody in the history of the FBS. He's played a lot of football. He's very mature. And while a lot of people talk about the pre-draft process of Shedeur Sanders, you can ask a lot of people around the league, and I've heard this from quarterback coaches on other teams as well. He had the best pre-draft process of anybody. Just mature, gets it, so good on the whiteboard, completely understands the concepts, understands the playbook, understands what he is being asked to do in the offense. And so they saw a guy that they thought could be a very efficient ball distributor and operator of their operation and of their offense, and think that what he excels at is what this system requires a quarterback to excel at.
Now, I'm not an old man, but I've been doing this long enough. No offense to Joe Flacco, Dillon Gabriel, or Kenny Pickett, and it's an open job. People are going to want to see Shedeur Sanders play, especially with what happened at the draft. How do you think they'll manage that hype machine of Shedeur Sanders? Because I know he's a 5th-round pick. I know he could be viewed as a backup quarterback right now, but in reality, I don't think that's the reaction that a lot of fans are going to have on their view of Shedeur.
No, I think that in some ways it's a good thing that he went here, and I think in many ways Shedeur has become a very sympathetic figure, because that was fair or unfair, and I think probably got a lot of bad advice and handled things differently, and he acknowledged that. That's a very public humiliation. Like every mock draft, I said this about our draft the other day, that if you had told somebody who, let's call it 10 days prior to the draft, was locked away in a cave and got to know nothing about what was going to happen in this draft, no sounds, and they come out and you say, the Browns got Mason Graham, Shedeur Sanders, Schlesinger, Judkins, Fannin, Dillon Gabriel, Dylan Sampson, and a future first, and you say that's impossible. Or you could say that same person here, I'll give you $1 million. I'm going to give you 10 chances. Order the draft picks. Order the way that the Browns selected these players.
0 shot.
Impossible. So it is unique in that he is a much better talent than what his draft position afforded him. We're going to see what that learning curve is for him, right? I think that he will be given every opportunity to be successful here, as will Dillon Gabriel. I think it's going to be cool that they're going to have each other. They're going to have Joe Flacco, who can teach these guys a lot about what it really means to be an under center, back to the defense, play action quarterback. That's something that they don't do a ton of in college anymore. So he'll be given the chance. Fans will want to see him. They're going to get to see him, I'm sure, a lot in the preseason, but he's going to be given what he earns, because that's really the way it is now. It is a competition. You have 3 people who are going to be very hungry to make a career for themselves. And Kenny Pickett, and obviously came highly recommended from Philadelphia in his time there. And the connections between our front office, Andrew Berry, Howie Roseman, his twin brothers in the front office there in Philly. So that wasn't a trade that was made without very good feelings and knowledge. And from the Philly standpoint, it's like, look, this is Jalen Hurts' team. We liked him. Let's give this guy a shot. The irony for Kenny Pickett is his best fit in Pittsburgh would have been in Arthur Smith's offense and never got to play in it. So now you get a similar type of a situation here. So these guys are all going to get opportunities. And I think really it's going to be a cream rises, type situation. And Shedeur, I think, he is a great ball of clay, a lot of talent. And if he can come in and execute the operation of things, I think he has a very good chance to play this year.
What's your gut right now? I know it's so early, but if you had to just throw a dart on the board, who's starting week 1? Who would you say right now?
My dart would Kenny Pickett.
Wow. That would be something. How do you think that go over with Browns fans if Pickett started in week 1?
I believe that if he was starting, it would be because it was apparent that he was the best quarterback. Listen, here's a sobering stat, and I say this to some of my friends all the time. The fact of the matter is, Kenny Pickett is 15-10 as a starter in the National Football League. That's a 60% winning percentage. I've been with this organization since 2012. He has the best winning percentage of any quarterback who's ever played for the Cleveland Browns. At 60%. Second's Joe Flacco. Third is Deshaun Watson. And then fourth would be Baker by the time he got out of here. I'm talking about people who started more than like a game. Most of our guys who started one game did not win those games anyway. But he has the best winning percentage. 7 of those 14 wins with the Pittsburgh Steelers came in game. He organized a game-winning drive. So there is something clutch about him. He's a better mover than people think. I'll go back to that offense. Now, there are people that say you are limited in how you can win with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. Well, that may be true. We just haven't seen him in this offense. So I think if he looks like the guy, remember, he was a first-round pick, and like I said, he's won in the NFL. That Browns fans should be pretty happy with a guy who was a first-round pick that's won in the NFL. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think you would have to earn it and have to be pretty clear, that he was the guy. And I think we'll see from Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, what does this look like this offseason? I think everybody knows what they have in Joe Flacco. And so the question will be more philosophically, do we want, if they're marginally close to him, are we playing a 40-year-old or are we trying to get answers about our young quarterbacks? That'll be it.
Yeah, last thing I'll ask you, Nathan Zegura, then I'll let you run. And I appreciate you doing this. Just out of curiosity, when 2 did go down and they traded back to 5, did that catch you by surprise? 2 hours before the draft, it started to leak out that the Browns were listening and they were getting phone calls and the Jaguars were potentially moving up. But, a day before the draft, if you would have asked me, I would have said it was 100% going to be Travis Hunter going second overall. So take me through your understanding of that process.
So it was, and it's been said publicly now, but that trade was done for 2 weeks.
Wow.
For 2 weeks and kept completely secret. Completely secret. I had an idea through my role here that,
something was
Mason Graham was certainly in play for our first pick. And using my mind, I said, that's probably not at number 2, but you never know. But I knew that he was somebody we were very enamored with in this process and that it was realistic that he would be the first pick of the Cleveland Browns. So I give kudos to this organization and I give kudos to the Jags organization for keeping that under wraps in this day and age for a couple of weeks. Obviously, it was contingent upon, and the reason it didn't happen before the draft was should the Titans have zigged and taken Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter themselves, Browns would have stayed at 2 and taken Cam Ward. Because that trade happened, then they make their move. So I was surprised, but when you think about what is the number one goal of this organization, obviously it's to win games, win Super Bowl. What do you need to do that? If we're being honest about it, is you need a franchise quarterback. That if it was kind of Cam Ward or let's say Dillon Gabriel in this draft, who was not going to, the idea of getting a future first-round pick had to be very appealing so that you had that flexibility to maybe take another swing at this next year. And so when they got that back, I wasn't surprised at all for 3 spots. Now, I'll tell you what I was surprised by, and I mean this in a very pleasant way, was that I saw that they got picked 36 as well. I'm like, how could you not do that? And so now it's Mason Graham, Quinshon Judkins, and that future first still out there. It's such a haul, given that we had so many needs, it makes sense, but it allows this draft to be significantly better, and it also sets you up for next year. So I love Travis Hunter. I think he's a unicorn. I don't know if he embodies belief or not. That's for other people to debate or say, but he clearly has a chance to maybe reinvent how we think about what the human being is capable of in the National Football League. That's intriguing, but you have to think big picture, and still at the end of the day, for a quarter, to get that haul for a non-quarterback is kind of unprecedented. And now the Browns are still a couple bites at the apple this year and a potential now to still do it in the future. So I understood it from that standpoint.
He does a kick-ass job on the Browns radio network. He, of course, is Nathan Zegura. Nathan, really appreciate the time and the insight. Thank you.
You got it, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, there he is, Nathan Zegura joining us on the show. A lot to unpack there. We'll do so on the other side. And also, I think Stu's a little bit annoyed. I saw Stu shaking his head when they were going through the return that the Browns ended up getting. And I think Stu goes, that incompetent organization ended up getting it right in the draft. Why can't my team do that? So a lot to discuss from that conversation with Nathan Zegura. We'll do it on the other side. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance, who offers this riddle. What do your home and auto have in common? Progressive protects them both. An easy riddle. Learn more at Progressive.com. The 49ers have made George Kittle the highest paid tight end ever, giving him a 4-year extension worth a total of $72 million and $40 million in guaranteed money. Doug Christie's 27-24 record as interim coach has prompted the Kings to reportedly lift the interim tag and give him the job full time. Perhaps the most interesting series at the start of the NBA playoffs featured the Clippers and Nuggets. That series even at 2 entering tonight's Game 5. LA battled injuries, but was now healthy, and Denver had all sorts of chaos after firing its coach and GM in the final week. The team seems to have stabilized under interim coach David Adelman, and as of now, quieting the doubters.
A lot went on. We had to win 3 games to make the playoffs. I think a lot of people thought that was going to go the other way, go sideways. It didn't. And then Game 3, heard a lot of stuff. Oh, well, it finally went sideways. It didn't. So I expect us to have a great effort in Game 5.
The three other series tonight can all be decided. The Pacers host the Bucks, who try to stave off elimination without the injured Damian Lillard. The Knicks up 3-1 on the Pistons with Game 5 in New York, and the defending champion Celtics can advance with a win over the Magic, hosting Game 5 up 3-1. I'm Rich Acker.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly is celebrating all who go above and beyond during Military Appreciation Month. Learn more at NavyFederal.org/celebrate. Our members are the mission. And this week's player is Blues goaltender Jordan Binnington. In Sunday's 5-1 win over the Jets, Binnington saved 30 of the 31 shots that came his way. That series is currently tied at 2-2 with Game 5 taking place tomorrow. A few things. Stu, I saw the disgust in your eyes and also the way that you were shaking your head when Nathan Zegura joined us and talked about why the Browns traded out of the 2 spot and all the capital that they got. It seemed as if, and this is a wild statement to say, because I don't think there's really anyone in the NFL that could be jealous of the Cleveland Browns. It seemed, though, that you as a Raiders fan were jealous of the Cleveland Browns there.
A little bit of jealousy, and just hearing it, it doesn't sound real, the amount of stuff they got. And they still got a really, really good player with Mason Graham. So I'm still kind of in disbelief that trade happened. If it wasn't for the Shedeur Sanders dropping, I feel like we'd still be kind of talking about how crazy that was, but because Shedeur fell all the way to the 5th round, we're kind of off of that and still on Shedeur. But it is crazy. I wish the Raiders could pull off something like that. Usually they're a team that gives up a lot.
Well, they wouldn't be able to shut their mouth for 2 weeks. That's the crazy part, that this was 2 weeks of silence, that they had this deal done and no one opened their fat trap.
Yeah. That long of a time in this day and age. Yeah.
That's the wild part to me, is that this thing was able to keep under wraps for 2 weeks. Usually you give like a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Hey, don't be so optimistic that Travis Hunter is going at 2 to the Cleveland Browns. But it wasn't until 24, 48 hours beforehand when Peter Schrager was like, hey, the phones are open still. They're on. And Cleveland's still listening to those offers. But that would have been, I think, the biggest story from the draft if Shedeur Sanders didn't fall. I still believe that Shedeur, one way or another, would have been the biggest story of the draft, because then where he would have gone. But that trade up from Jacksonville from 5 to 2 and all they gave up, and they got their guy, a potentially franchise-altering player in Travis Hunter. But at first, I didn't love the Cleveland trade of this. I didn't. Just because it was unexpected and it was not what I was told what was going to happen. But then once you actually processed it, and I said this the day I walked in on Friday, I thought it was a win-win all around. But now looking back at it, I think that's more of a win for Cleveland than it is Jacksonville. And also what's cool here for Cleveland, and it's a lot of what ifs, and a lot of guessing games, but you have a chance now with 3 young quarterbacks on the roster for one of those guys to go take the opportunity this year. But if none of them do, well, it means 2 things. One, on your own accord, you may have the number 1 overall pick. But then if you don't, you could still go move on up with that extra first-round pick that you got from Jacksonville to go maybe improve your draft position. So for Cleveland, it almost, I don't want to say it's a wasted season because it's not, but it does feel as if you're just going to spin the wheel here, almost like you're playing roulette, and you got like a few numbers down, right? You got Shedeur Sanders down, you got Dillon Gabriel down, you got Kenny Pickett down. Obviously, long-term, Joe Flacco isn't going to be their guy, and I'm starting to think Joe Flacco's not even going to make the roster. But that roulette wheel is spinning, and you got your chips on those numbers, and you're waiting to see this year if it will land on a Kenny Pickett, if it will land on Shedeur Sanders, if it will land on Dillon Gabriel, and then one of those guys, you go collect your earnings, and they're your guy for next year. But let's say if that machine spins and spins and spins and spins, and it doesn't land on one of those three guys, and those guys don't get you a lot of cash, then you're probably in a good enough position with 2 first-round picks, and also you being Cleveland and probably going to have a bad team this year, and who knows what the heck Jacksonville's going to do, and now you have their first-round pick next year, where you're in line to go get one of these big quarterbacks. And this quarterback draft class, you never know, but the way it's talked about right now, it's supposed to be a very, 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 very deep quarterback draft class in 2026. So it's a good gamble here, and it's low risk, high reward this year. And then if it doesn't work out this year, then next year in the draft of 2026 is when you're all in on the quarterback that you would actually want early on in the first round. Now, let's go around the room here real quickly. Joe Flacco, is he on the team come week 1 with the Cleveland Browns? Yes or no? Stu?
I say no at this point.
Samter, Joe Flacco, is he on the team come week 1? Yes or no?
100%.
100%. Okay. I'm going to say no. I don't think he is. Now, I'll explain why in a second. But Stu, who is starting at quarterback come week 1 for the Cleveland Browns?
Mr. Kenny Pickett.
Samter?
Joe Flacco.
Okay, so then you think Kenny Pickett's going to be the odd guy out in Cleveland? Because I don't think they're getting rid of Shedeur. I don't think they're getting rid of Dillon Gabriel.
I mean, we'll see. I think that it's going to be either Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel on the way out.
Are you going to cut a 3rd-round pick? I don't think you cut a 3rd-round pick. If they're going to cut someone, I think it's actually going to be Shedeur Sanders, and that's why I do believe that Joe Flacco, right, the elder statesman, hey, Joe, let's say Kenny Pickett wins the job. We want to give the chance to Kenny. If it doesn't work out, then we're going to go with one of these younger guys who've shown us some improvement from when they got in to where they are now with Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. You're older. You only have a year or 2 left. Maybe there's an injury that happens in camp. Go sign there or wait for an injury and then you sign there. But I can't believe I'm saying this. And if Chris in California is listening, he's got to be jumping up and down like a fat kid in a candy store. Because I think most of us, when we saw Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders get drafted, it's like, oh, that's it for Kenny Pickett. But I'm kind of with Nathan Zegura and Stu that Kenny Pickett, I don't think he'll make it through the entire season. Let me be clear. But I do think he's going to be the week 1 starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And that's crazy to me. Because sometimes you say something in the radio, right, into a microphone, and it goes out on the radio, and then right away there's like a little alarm that goes off in your head or a voice, and it goes, Zach, about a week ago, you would say that's bleeping crazy if you said Kenny Pickett was going to be the Browns' week 1 starting quarterback. But that's what I think is going to happen if all those guys are healthy. I think Flacco gets put back on the couch and is somewhere else. I do believe Dillon Gabriel makes the roster, Shedeur Sanders makes the roster, and I think they're going to give the baton to see how far he's going to run with it before he falls on his face to one Kenny Pickett. We will do an overreaction, proper reaction on a Tuesday. Coming up next, it is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network, and maybe we'll start calling this the Kenny Pickett Sports Network, because I don't think there's a show in the history of sports talk radio that talks more about Kenny Pickett than us.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, yeah. Hour number 2 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Fun hour number 1. I'll tell you, coming up at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time, you know, there are moments in life when you're a leader that sometimes you got to be a little critical and you got to give some tough love. There is an employee around here where he did something today that I think is inexcusable. And I could either look at it and say, okay, I could ignore it. It's not my show, but it's a reflection of the network. And all I will say is this, and then we will talk more about this at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time. The facts are the facts here. I am now in a crazy way one of the longest, not the longest, but one of the longest tenured hosts on the network. So I feel a certain responsibility now that I did not feel a few years ago. You know, when I was doing 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, I didn't feel this way because DA was here, right? You know, when I was doing weekend overnights, I just got here, do my job, make headlines, get talked about throughout the week, and then eventually fill in on shows throughout the week. And I had this climb here at the network. But now, in the afternoon drive time slot on our network on a national level, I feel like people look at me a little bit different around here. You know, sometimes you have younger guys that now come in and they're training, right? Guys and gals, and they ask me questions. You know, they want advice and things like that. And I've been fortunate enough, even though I am not an old man, I'm the farthest thing from an old man, but I have a lot of radio years where a lot of people that have been elevated into full-time slots at the network, whether it's on the air, behind the scenes, producing, running the board, they either at one time were on my show or trained on my show, or I've developed a little bit of relationship. So I don't think I'd be doing my job as a leader, right? And my job as someone that's trying to set the standard of this network if I didn't call this person out. And it's one thing to commit the crime. It's another thing to then boast about the crime on social media. And the person we're going to talk about, it's kind of like some Jax Ulbrich kind of energy, where it's one thing to commit the action, right? It's stupid to commit the action. But then there's another thing when you brag about the action and your own incompetence publicly for all to see. So coming up at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time, I ain't playing around, and I may even bring out management. I may even be a rat, and I don't like being a rat, but someone did something that I thought was so ridiculous and so stupid. And it took this network, this proud network, to a level where I thought our network today got embarrassed. Embarrassed. And I saw this on social media. And I texted this person. I said, I'm going to rip you on the air today. I said, I saw what you posted. I saw what you did. It's one thing to be stupid. It's another thing when then you brag about being stupid. So coming up at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time today, I'm going to tell you who that person is and what they did that made me so absolutely livid. I had a wonderful morning. I got up, right? I wasn't even listening to the network this morning. So it's one thing, right? If I listened to it, then I could have stopped it right in the moment, made a phone call. But I got up. I went for a nice, lovely walk this morning. It's 72 degrees in New York City. Found out I'm going to the Knicks game tonight. That's why I'm wearing my In Leon We Trust shirt for the Knicks president, Leon Rose. I'm sitting right behind the Knicks bench, right? Knicks are trying to close out tonight the Detroit Pistons. Very excited to be at Madison Square Garden. I even walked all the way to Bubby's this morning, and I had a delicious, little set of pancakes, little stack of pancakes. Stu's like, come on, Stu. You've been eating well lately.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't need
You can't be jealous off of Bubby's.
No, but yeah, it sounds good, but I don't need that
I had a little well-done home fries, a little bacon. Right, I was feeling real good. And then I walked back to my apartment right as I'm getting ready for the show. Maybe take a little shower. I go, let me just do a last-second prep for the show, right? Before I jump in the shower. I go, let me scroll social media. So I scroll Twitter, read a few articles, and then I went on Instagram. And when I went on Instagram, I saw something that our coworker did that was absolutely despicable. Despicable. So it is someone in the Monday through Friday lineup where if this person does it again, I'm just saying, things may not it may not be good for this person moving forward around here. He needs to be like Shedeur Sanders. He needs to look himself in the mirror and figure out what type of career he wants to have. Because what he did this morning, it was offensive. Anyway, we will get to that at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time. I'm waiting if that person's going to text me. Oh, please don't mention it on the air. Oh, please don't do it. And no, even though I just did the high-pitched voice, it's not Hot Take Hickey. Ryan Hot Take Hickey would not do something this offensive. That's a man of work ethic. Anyway, overreaction, proper reaction time. Let's get to it.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
All right, overreaction, proper reaction time. Gentlemen, what do we got cooking today?
All right, so the 49ers and star tight end George Kittle finally agreed to an extension, with Kittle receiving a 4-year, $76.4 million extension that will likely be the last contract for the 31-year-old. Now, Kittle has been named a first-team All-Pro twice, second-team 3 times, and made 6 Pro Bowls over his career. Overreaction or proper reaction, George Kittle is a first-ballot Hall of Famer.
First-ballot Hall of Famer? No offense to George Kittle. He's wonderful. Antonio Gates wasn't a first-ballot Hall of Famer. So you can't tell me George Kittle is a first-ballot Hall of Famer when Antonio Gates was not. I do think he'll get in one day, but I don't think it's going to be by a first ballot, so I'm going to go overreaction there.
All right, a few years ago, Deontay Johnson was a rising star in the NFL, hauling in 107 catches for nearly 1,200 yards in 2021. But since then, his numbers have dropped off, and he was forced to bounce around 3 different teams last year, in large part due to some locker room issues. Now, the 28-year-old has found a 5th team in 2 years, agreeing to a deal with the Browns. The Browns already have locker room questions between Deshaun Watson, Myles Garrett, and a new addition of Shedeur Sanders. Overreaction or proper reaction, the Browns have the most dysfunctional locker room dynamic in the league.
Myles Garrett stayed there, so that's a non-issue now. Deshaun Watson's never going to play again for the Cleveland Browns, so he's basically a non-issue. And does anyone give a rat's ass about Deontay Johnson at this stage of his career? So I'm not going to say that that's the most dysfunctional locker room in the league. Sure, you're bringing Shedeur Sanders, but I think that's more of a positive than a negative. So I'm going to go overreaction on that one when you ask me, are the Browns the most dysfunctional locker room in the NFL?
Now, speaking of the Browns, the current favorite to be their starting quarterback is former Steelers first-rounder Kenny Pickett.
Oh, Chris in California is excited.
He has to be.
Chris in California is maybe sitting down with a bottle of lube, and he's getting real excited about Kenny Pickett potentially starting for the here we go, Brownies, here we go.
That was an image I didn't need.
What? He had to moisturize his hands. What are you thinking?
That's what I was thinking. I don't need to think about Chris moisturizing his anything.
Get your head out of the gutter, Samter. Jeez Louise. I would never make a joke like that, a sexual joke like that on the radio. Would never do it. Please, come on. Come on, Mike. You know, I'm just sitting here teasing something for 4:40 p.m. Eastern time about how we're going to rip a fellow coworker of ours. You know, my guys do things the right way. I don't need you now stepping out of line with a joke like that.
All right, I'll just go back to sleep.
All righty, next one. The crime was done right behind you, I will say. But anything, what do we got cooking here?
However, despite some of that good Kenny Pickett news, ESPN reports that Cleveland will not pick up Pickett's 5th-year option, meaning he'll be a free agent at the end of the year. Overreaction or proper reaction, Kenny Pickett will be on the Browns roster in 2026.
Overreaction. I think that this will be Kenny Pickett starts maybe the first month and a half of the season, then more underwhelming than someone that looks like he's going to be their franchise quarterback. I think they then move off of Kenny Pickett and they hand the baton over to, at both times, we will see these guys play at different times during the NFL season, Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. And then it's going to be up to one of those two guys to keep the baton. If not, then they'll be using a pick early in the first round of the draft next year. So I do not think Kenny Pickett will be on the Browns roster in 2026. So when you ask me he will be on the roster in 2026, I will go overreaction.
The Titans selected Will Levis in the second round of the 2023 draft.
Mayo.
And the former Kentucky star has gone 5-16 in 21 starts.
Bananas.
Throwing 21 touchdowns to 16 picks in that span. Now, after the team drafted Cam Ward, it was pretty clear that Levis's time in Tennessee was coming to an end. But GM Mike Borgonzi said that they didn't try trading Levis before or during the draft.
The interest in Will during the draft and just him still being on roster, what does that say about his value with the team?
It's a lot of value. I think, there's going to be competition in every room, and he elevates the competition in that room. That's what we're trying to do here as we get into training camp, is have the best 90-man roster, best competition in every room, and Will certainly provides that.
So overreaction or proper reaction, you still believe Levis could be a solid backup or even a spot starter in the NFL?
So this is or, not and.
This is or, yes.
Because I do believe he could be a solid backup. A starter, I'm not sold on. But I look at that quarterback room. Cam Ward's going to start week 1. Then after that, it's Will Levis, Brandon Allen. Our overnight guy is in the locker room for the Tennessee Titans. Tim Boyle. And is that the guy that does the overnights here on the Infinity Sports Network? I will say Will Levis will be the backup there. And I think he'd be a solid backup in the NFL. He's still a young quarterback, right? If Cam Ward gets hurt on a drive, you could have him go in and he could be efficient in terms of hiking the ball if he just runs it and then just don't throw it, because once you throw it, you make stupid decisions. But I think he could be a solid backup option. So I will go proper reaction there.
All right, as the draft concluded, a few undrafted players stuck out as they looked to sign with a new team. Missouri quarterback Brady Cook, former 5-star quarterback DJ Uiagalelei, Michigan running back Donovan Edwards.
I like how you said that, by the way. Good job with the pronunciation. DJ Uiagalelei.
Thank you.
Good job.
You had receivers Isaiah Nair from Nebraska, Xavier Restrepo from Miami, Isaiah Bond from Texas, cornerback Kobe Bryant from Kansas, and of course Shiloh Sanders. All those guys went undrafted. So overreaction or proper reaction, you believe at least one of these players will make an impact on the NFL level?
Proper reaction, I'll give you the player, Xavier Restrepo. He is a teammate of Cam Ward's from college. I know it was just 1 year, but they had an awesome connection. Him landing there immediately once the draft ends means that's a Cam Ward shot, and Cam Ward's going to want him on the roster. So I think that Xavier Restrepo has the ability to make an impact on the NFL level, so I will go proper reaction.
All right, last one. Yesterday, we aired a few clips of Bill Belichick.
Oh, this is creepy.
Yeah.
I was already out on the Belichick relationship with this girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. I'm really out after having it digest a little bit more yesterday.
Yeah, so we played a few clips of his interview with CBS this morning, including one of his 24-year-old girl, Jordan Hudson, shutting down a question about how they met.
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordan right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
I'm not talking about this.
Shut up.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on.
You know what? Shut up. Like, I know she's now Bill Belichick's publicist. That's what she is. But this is a joke. She posts photos of Bill Belichick, dressing Bill Belichick up. She wants the attention. You're doing an interview. Everyone knows the story that you guys told. Now, I don't even know if that's a true story, because now you're getting all protective about it on how you guys met on some stupid airplane. Your relationship is weird. It's not illegal, but it's weird. You're 24, he's 73. Bill Belichick is a big boy. I love Bill Belichick. He's a 6-time Super Bowl champion. Bill Belichick is my favorite head coach of all time. But this idea that Bill can't sit there and answer his own question, the questions being asked to him, is ridiculous. Bill Belichick has had to be on a podium when Aaron Hernandez was arrested for murder and answered questions. Bill Belichick had to deal with the jackassery of Deflategate while answering questions. Like in the NFL world, in the football world, Bill has had to deal with off-the-field issues and then serious on-the-field issues. And Jordan has to, we're not talking about our relationship? When all you do is post about your relationship? Shut up! Stop! Go away! And I'm disappointed in Bill. Because Mr.
We're on to Cincinnati. No distractions. We're all about the team.
This girl is making him look like a buffoon. Oh my God. Enough. I love you, Bill. But someone's got to get to Bill and say, this relationship, maybe it doesn't even need to end. I would say that it needs to end. But she can't be basically your spokesperson now, Bill. What are we doing here? Oh my God. Oh, when she interrupts that, we're not talking about that. If I was doing the interview, I would say, who the bleep are you to tell me what we're talking about? This is a grandpa in Bill Belichick. This is a guy that could answer the questions or choose to do what he's done his entire career. Deflect, 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 and not give an answer. You made this more of a story by putting yourself in the story because you just want the publicity. You want the attention. That's what this is about. So you're going to sit there, oh, we're not answering that. Oh, we're not answering that. Hello, Bill could have just said that and go,
next question. On to the next question.
Instead, this becomes a big story because she's insufferable. She's insufferable. She's Yoko Ono. That's what she is to me. Enough. All right, you continue answering the questions or reading me the question. I apologize.
So
I'm sick and tired of this. And everyone's like sitting and like tiptoeing around the matter because everyone's like afraid to just say the honesty of this. This relationship is weird. Bill, God bless you. Do what you want. This relationship is weird.
So now a new TMZ report says Hudson interrupted multiple times throughout the interview, including getting so upset at one point that she stormed off and delayed the production by nearly 30 minutes.
What is this, take your daughter to work day? She's having a temper tantrum? I didn't ask Bill the question that I wanted him to ask. Where? Oh, wait, no, sorry, that's his girlfriend. Oh, my, once again, shut up. Shut up!
Forcing CBS to wrap the interview early and canceling a planned second interview.
Oh, a second interview. Oh, my, that'd be like if Debo's people called me up after when he hung up with all, let's do a second interview. I'd say, go kick rocks. Yeah, we'll do the second interview. My first question, hey, Debo, why do you hate the Eagles? Why do you talk crap about the Eagles? Oh, my God. A second part of the interview. Think about how just out of touch with reality people are if they ever thought they were getting that second part of the interview. Good for the CBS and good for these guys for basically showing this part. These are always puff pieces, what CBS does. It's always puff pieces. And she must have been that insufferable through this whole thing.
So overreaction to proper reaction.
There's a question somewhere, right?
The public perception of the relationship with Hudson will negatively impact Belichick's ability to recruit and succeed at UNC.
Overreaction. She could be insufferable and obnoxious. Kids care about two things. How much money you're giving me and how could you get me to the NFL? UNC has an NIL collective. They could get money and Bill Belichick could get you to the NFL. All righty. So that is a overreaction there. Could be my favorite overreaction, proper reaction question ever. Take a time out. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, a player that you would love if he was on your team, but would hate it if you had to go up against him. We talk about that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Yo, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Did you see the ending of that Rockets-Golden State Warriors game last night as the Golden State Warriors are up 3-1? Imagine if I told you before the game that Draymond Green would have 6 points, 8 rebounds, 5 fouls, a technical foul, and a flagrant foul, and ended up being the hero at the end of that game. That's what happened. As Draymond Green, with the game on the line, he made a defensive stop, and he finishes the game with 6 points, 8 rebounds, 5 fouls, 1 technical foul, and 1 flagrant foul. And we all know that's the farthest thing from a good stat line. But when you make the biggest defensive play of the game, nobody cares if your stat line is a bad stat line. But I'll tell you, when Draymond Green, who I don't like, is screaming into the camera afterwards, he is the villain. He really is. Like, he knows he's the villain too, and he knows he's obnoxious. Now, you make a big stop like that, I'm okay with you showing emotion, but it's almost as if he knew where the camera was and looked right into it and just started screaming. Absolutely screaming. And that's what transpired. And I'll tell you, I'm watching this game last night, and what Draymond did earlier in the year with Karl Anthony Towns was despicable. I said someone should punch him in the face, right? Those are words that I said into the microphone. And I stand by those words. I won't ever take those words back. It was just an absolute disgrace what Draymond Green did. And Draymond says so many stupid things throughout the course of the year. But if Draymond's on your team, you're like a part of his following, right? You're a part of his crew. And you will live or die defending Draymond Green, right? He's your guy if you're a Golden State Warriors fan. With how many championships you won and with how many people that can't stand him because he's a provocateur, that people, and he's an antagonist, that people will go to a great length to defend him, right? But if you're watching him and you're not a Warriors fan, you can't stand his guts because he wants to be the villain. He wants to be the agitator, and he is, and he does such a perfect role of being such a royal pain in the ass. So Draymond Green is the perfect definition of if he's on your team, you love him. If he's not on your team, all the rest of the teams in the NBA can't stand his guts. So let's go around the room here right now, and let's pick a player where it could be NFL. I know you guys are soccer snobs. So I guess it could be soccer, even though I have no clue who you're talking about probably. It could be basketball. It could be Major League Baseball. You know, whatever sport. That if this guy's on your team, you love him. But if he isn't on your team, the rest of the league hates him. Stu, who's your player? Just wondering.
My player is the guy who was considered a Draymond before Draymond, and that is Dennis Rodman. I feel like in the late 90s, those teams that went up against the Bulls probably hated going up against them. You know, they might get kicked. They might, you know, he would dye his hair all the colors to try to psych him out, the colors of the team. And I feel like he'd just be a disaster to play against. But if you have Dennis Rodman on your team, like the Bulls had, I feel like you really like him a lot.
Do you think, and maybe this is a better question for Samter, do you think The Last Dance actually changed the perception maybe of Dennis Rodman? Because during The Last Dance, they talk about, you know, some of his obvious issues and how he could go away from the team and go to Vegas and then come on back a week later. And I think during The Last Dance, when it was COVID and everyone was kind of inside, they were laughing at the storylines. Oh, that was so ridiculous of Dennis Rodman. And even though there's a lot there, it's kind of, all right, that was Dennis, you know, Dennis being Dennis. Did The Last Dance, in your opinion, maybe change the view of a Dennis Rodman nationally?
I don't think so. I think for the most part, nobody really took him seriously with his dyed hair and his mannerism and his actions and dressing up in a wedding dress to sign books.
The wedding dresses.
All the weird things that he did. I don't think people were taking him overly serious. He was a performer. He was an act. So I don't think for me, it didn't change anything. I haven't talked to anybody and I haven't seen anything where there's any kind of change of perception.
You know what? Was it an act though? This is the same dude. I'll never forget this. Do you know what I'm about to mention, Stu? Because you're smiling a little bit?
Yeah, the North Korea.
No, I'm not even talking.
Okay.
Good memory, though.
Yeah.
I'm going back even further than that. George Sedano, you know him on ESPN now? He used to host a show. It was either on 560 WQAM or 790 The Ticket or whatever it was, in the two sports stations there in Florida. And now I think The Ticket is no longer around. And obviously 560 WQAM is an Odyssey station, and they're still humming and going strong. He once did an interview with George Sedano where, let's just say, a lady's in bed with him and there are sexual acts going on, and he's talking into the phone while there's a little nookie time going on in the bedroom. When there's a little bam chicka went time going on in the bedroom. It is one of, Not one of, actually. It is the craziest radio interview I've ever heard. Think about like whatever the craziest radio interview is, the most memorable interview ever. You know, whether it's Hank Haney with Boomer and Carden, whether it's Qualcomm with Matt Harvey and Dan Patrick, whether it's the whole Everett situation with Jim Rome. Dennis Rodman was literally doing sexual acts with a woman and talking to a radio station. It's by far and away the craziest radio interview I've ever heard of. Samter, who's your athlete, though, that you loved him if he was on your team, hated him if you had to go up against him?
There were a couple that I was going after, but I'm not going to give you the full list.
Should I give mine before Samter gives his? Because Samter has this list.
I'm just going to go with one guy. I'm going to go with Richard Sherman from the NFL.
Ooh.
Richard Sherman's one of those guys who...
Michael Crabtree, that sorry-ass wide receiver on me.
I think everybody hated... If you weren't a Seahawks fan, you hated Richard Sherman. I was originally going to go with Big Papi, but I feel like Big Papi was beloved by everybody except for Yankee fans.
Yeah.
So that was too personal. Then I realized like everybody hated Richard Sherman except for Seahawks fans and probably some Seahawks fans too. So he'd be one of those guys who I would really like to have on my team in his prime because he took a downhill turn very quickly.
So sometimes I've been in professional moments and I was not incredibly like that old, right? Like shouldn't be in some of those moments, you know, just being someone that grew up around the radio business. When I was in college, I was able to get my college radio show to Radio Row. And I sometimes take pictures with people and things like that. Like that happens when you're at Radio Row. Everyone's taking pictures. And I saw Richard Sherman. I go, oh, that'd be great for social media to get a picture with him. And he said something like, I don't do selfies. Like someone has to hold the phone. And I had such this perception that Richard Sherman, from his persona on the field, was like a jackass. And I just kind of walked away. I'm like, ugh, this guy's the same way that he's perceived as actually in person as well. And I was miffed about it. And I walked away and he's like, oh, I'll take the picture. And I just won't do a selfie, which I just thought was still bizarre to this day. But that's one of those times you meet someone and you hear all those things. And hey, Richard Sherman, I don't think he... I don't think that was a good reflection of me, being honest, in the moment. But you hear so much about someone that you just kind of have like a quick fuse, and then you just walk away and be like, I don't want to be a part of this. All right, here's my player. It's hockey. I was going to go Sean Avery. But then I said there's someone better than Sean Avery who has more talent on him, and he just as equally gets under your skin. And that's Brad Marchand, formerly of the Boston Bruins, now of the Florida Panthers. Like, he licks players. He just does weird things, bizarre things. And the guy's a heck of a hockey player, but he's the ultimate instigator. And that's a dude. How many times have I watched the Boston Bruins where I've been like, F him, bleep that dude. But if the Rangers could ever get him, I would love Brad Marchand on my team. So how about that? Dennis Rodman. Samter ends up going Richard Sherman. I go Brad Marchand in honor of Draymond Green, who's a player that you would love if he was on your team, but would absolutely hate his guts if you had to go up against him. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. When we come on back, oh boy, we have to address something. We have to clean up the locker room around here at the Infinity Sports Network because something happened today that was a despicable act. Happened earlier in the day. And I think this person needs a stern talking to. I think this person needs to take the job a little bit more seriously. And I think that there needs to be some punishment. So we will bring in one of our bosses, David Mayernick, on the other side. I don't even know, and I feel bad doing this, but I got to be a leader. I don't even know if David Mayernick knows about this yet. But I saw something on social media today that I thought was so despicable. And I'm all about checks and balances. I call people out. You want to call me out? That's fine. But I saw something today that we have to put this person... we have to keep him in check and keep him in line, and I think we need to address something with that person. So we will get to that on the other side. Update time first. The person in question is not Rich Ackerman, but standing by with an award-winning... So. Yeah. I always remember Ack once said to me 2 years ago, he goes, the day I retire is the day I also get rid of Twitter too.
There you go.
You are not a fan of the cesspool of Twitter.
No.
But anyway, we are a fan of Rich Ackerman Sports Updates, and he has the latest one for you right now.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
A very small group The 49ers are holding on to 8-year vet George Kittle, who signs a 4-year extension worth a total of $72 million, $40 million guaranteed, and it makes him the highest-paid tight end in history. He's also one of 5 tight ends with 4 or more 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Andrew Van Ginkel gets another year from the Vikings at $23 million. The Sacramento Kings missed the playoffs, but the progress made under Doug Christie prompted the team to drop the interim tag and name him the full-time coach. 4 games in the NBA playoffs tonight, 3 of them elimination games as the Pacers try to close out the Bucks, who have lost star Damian Lillard to a torn Achilles. The Knicks are up 3-1 on the Pistons after back-to-back wins in Detroit and will try to finish off the 6th seed tonight. And also the Celtics are up 3-1 on the Magic, hosting Game 5. The Clippers are in Denver with that series even at 2. UConn's Alex Caravan is returning for his senior season in the NHL. Both the Hurricanes and Maple Leafs can move on with wins tonight, and Rick Tocchet will not return as coach of the Vancouver Canucks. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage, no medical exam, just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I teased this earlier in the program that at 4:40 p.m. Eastern Time, we needed to get and address a big issue here. I have called in my boss, David Mayernick. I don't think David has any idea what happened at this network earlier this morning. And David, before we get to it, I appreciate you joining us in studio.
Yeah, my pleasure, Zach. And like I said off the air, if nothing else, this is a heck of a tease. So good for you, man.
So I will just say this. Like, you saw the Ulbrich situation, right? Where they did the whole prank phone call the kid to Shedeur Sanders.
Indeed.
And it was a stupid act to do.
Sure.
And then it's an even dumber thing to post it, right?
Yeah.
Where he probably gets you the overnight job these days. But anyway, even someone like Pat Boyle has learned from that. And I love Pat. But you kind of just grinded, did the job, eventually got promoted to 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. But still, there were other people at the network that were just around a lot longer. So you could have like the fun shots with the, at the time, DA in the morning. And we would just kind of go back and forth. But there was always like a level of respect. I feel a different level of responsibility now.
Okay.
Being in this 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time slot. And when we had a lineup change, one of the authors of the article was like, Zach Gelb, one of the veterans of the Infinity Sports Network.
Indeed.
Formerly CBS Sports Radio.
Sure.
And that made me feel really old.
Okay.
But I've been here for a long time. So I've always been a checks and balance guy, right? If you got a problem with what I say or something I do, ask me about it. Call me out. But also, if I see something, I'm going to say something.
For sure.
And I feel not only a duty to serve our listeners during this time slot, but also kind of boots on the ground, be looking around and making sure if something goes wrong, we have a standard to uphold here, correct?
Absolutely.
We are a professional. Sometimes we don't act like it, but, because some of the takes and all that stuff. Right. But we're a professional 24/7 national radio network.
Well said.
So our morning show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, they do a phenomenal job, right? Maggie Gray, consummate professional. Andrew Perloff, consummate professional. Andrew Bogish, one of the best update guys in the country.
Yep.
EJ does a great job producing. And someone that is trained on this show and has worked on this show, and someone that I really do adore and love is Manny Rodriguez.
Yep.
And Manny Rodriguez has worked his way up, went about things the right way, but now this dude, I don't know if he's taking the job seriously.
Okay.
So Manny's training someone this week.
Yep.
Do we know who he's training?
Connor Armstrong, yeah.
Oh, very nice guy, Connor Armstrong.
Connor's great.
He trained on our show a few weeks ago. So he's training on a premier morning radio show. Huge national morning radio show. Maggie and Perloff. Manny Rodriguez is training the guy. And Connor is standing at the board, running the show, has someone would do that's good with training. I see Stu do that, Santer, Hickey, all these guys behind the scenes. After a few days of training, you let them run the board. That's how you're going to learn.
Yep.
Manny's in the corner. He's sleeping.
As in, like, legitimately sleeping.
Knocked out cold sleeping.
Do we have video documentation of this?
Well, remember when I said Jax Ulbrich is an idiot, not just for the prank phone call, but then it was posted.
For publicizing it.
So this Stu Nod, Manny Rodriguez, posts the photo of him sleeping in the corner, and he says, Manny at work. This is on his own Instagram page. Boss man, I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm just the little old engine, chugging along, choo-choo, little engine that good here. In the afternoon, just doing my show. I think you got to have a little intervention with Manny.
Yeah, we may have to have a sit down. That's not exactly the type of image that we want to portray.
Now, I don't want him to lose his job.
Of course not.
Obviously. But there's got to be some punitive action.
I do.
Yeah. Oh, well, come on. Samter in the mornings on the Infinity Sports Network.
If you don't mind, Zach, what time was the photo posted to his Instagram account? I'm curious.
So I have to take a look because I had a very nice morning, had a nice stroll down the West Side Highway, and ended up having a little brunch at Bubby's. Beautiful day. And as I'm preparing for the show, I go on social media, see what's happening. And Manny's story came up 7 hours ago.
All right, so what time is it?
3, 2, 1, 12. Ooh, wait. Even later? You're asking me to do math.
Yeah.
Hey, Stu, you have a brain. What's 7 hours ago?
That seems like to be in the 9 o'clock Eastern time hour.
Okay, so the last hour of the show.
He posted this while he was on the air?
It would appear that way.
So this dude is posting while on the air. He's sleeping. Is he actually training this kid?
What's funny is when I was listening to the show this morning, it was brought to our attention. Maggie had mentioned it a couple times. So, Connor, you're going to have to hit the button since Manny's back out in the corner. So it was sort of a element of the show, if you will.
Okay. So Maggie Gray and Andrew Perloff do what a professor would do. Take a textbook and drop it in front of his cabeza and wake his ass up. And Manny Rodriguez is on the line with us right now. Manny, explain yourself, because I'm livid. This is just a lack of professionalism. First off, how are you?
I'm doing all right, buddy. I'm watching some soccer. Dave, Gelb, how are you guys?
What's up, Manny? Maybe you should be sleeping now, not at the job.
Well, I mean, that was the plan until you told me, hey, buddy, be on standby. I should be asleep right now. You're cutting it to nap time.
But I gave you fair warning. You had nap time today while you're getting paid to work here. What's going on?
You see, Zach, here's the thing. I know you don't have the most spectacular vision. But you see, it was also brought upon my strenuous work on air by the aforementioned Andrew Bogish.
Strenuous work on air? You're behind the scenes.
Went ahead. But yes, exactly. I'm behind the scenes. I was on Overwatch, making sure Connor was doing a perfect job. And
you're training someone, and you're sleeping.
No.
That would be like if I was saying to someone, "Hey, Zachary, sit next to me. You're going to learn how to fill in for me," and I start dozing off during the show.
Zachary, use that Temple degree. Use that brain for a split second. Be serious. Do you think I was actually asleep? You see, here's the thing. Here's what I do. Before you cut me off. Bogish took the liberty to print out a paper that said "Manny at work," and he put it on the double glass pane behind me. He did it like a ninja. I didn't even notice. I noticed.
Were you sleeping?
No, I wasn't sleeping.
You weren't taking a nap whatsoever?
Watching Connor Armstrong do his work. That's what I was doing at that time.
You look like me when I have 15 beers and then sit in a chair. You look knocked out cold. What are you talking about here?
So here's the thing, Zachary. When I noticed that there was something above my head, like the entertainer that I am, like the genius that I am.
Entertainer.
And genius too, Manny, wow.
In between going to break. We did it during a break as well. That's when the camera hit me. It was roughly about 9:30. You want to check, David? It was about 9:30, the penultimate segment. Going into the penultimate segment. That's the second to last segment.
Too many syllables.
Hey, Manny, let me ask you a question.
Late.
Hold on. Your boss is talking to you. Shut your mouth. Your boss is talking to you. Have some respect.
Hey, have you seen the Ocean's 11 movie, Manny?
Stop talking.
No, I haven't seen Ocean's 11.
All right.
12,
No. There's a scene in Ocean's 11. I think it's the Ocean's 11 one. I'm not really sure. I can't remember. They've made like I don't know how many dozens of them, but one of the lines in your casino, he's talking to the Andy Garcia character, if I'm not mistaken. There's always somebody watching.
Yeah, and you know what, Manny? I'm going to be watching you. I may pop up at 7:30. Hold on. You zip your lip for a second. I may pop up at 7:30 in the morning. You know what? I'm coming back from Vegas on Sunday. I have a red eye. I land Monday. I may come right to the studio. You better be up. You better be alert, and you better be giving Maggie and Perloff your all, because they deserve your all. And I'm only saying this because I'm disappointed you're better than that, Manny. I know the Manny that used to train here. You're better than that. Don't be one of these guys that come in here, they get the job, and then they blow it. Don't blow it, Manny.
The people loved it. The chat loved it. My friends loved it. I am an entertainer. Do you understand? Legendary.
There it is.
By the way,
you got to love that confidence, Gelb.
Manny, good luck. We appreciate it. Go Knicks tonight, right? You know, we could bond over a Knicks win, but I also got damaging evidence here.
From your lips to God's ears, but it's not damaging because you'll see. I was awake.
No.
Before,
this has nothing to do with you.
My eyes. Okay, go ahead.
This has nothing to do with you. Get Manny off the show. I don't need Manny on the show anymore. Thank you, Manny. We appreciate it. Michael Samter.
I've heard of him.
Something happens. One allegation happens, and then a bunch of other different allegations get thrown out there. Rich Ackerman just texted me. He has a photo of Samter, June 27th. 2014. Who's that? Schluffian in the office.
Oh my God, that is wild.
Samter. Now maybe Manny has some inspiration.
Yeah, I mean,
Samter was asleep at the job. Manny was asleep at the job.
We can recreate the old commercial. He learned it by watching you, Samter.
Who do you think trained Manny?
Yeah, that's true. Snoring Samter was like, yeah, you could just snore during the morning show.
I mean,
no problem with that.
You notice we both have our arms crossed, laid back, and lounging in a chair. I taught him well. Manny followed my instructions perfectly. He deserves a raise. He deserves accommodation, and he deserves extra points. Let's go, Manny Rodriguez.
I'm just saying. I think Manny needed to take a little bit more accountability there.
You know what? The optics obviously are bad, but again, I think in this,
you give him the benefit of the doubt.
I am absolutely.
Nice guy.
No, you know what?
You're not me.
You know, to your point though. Again, Manny's a great dude, and he worked really hard for the job. And I think if it's show fodder, it's show fodder.
That's a good politician right there, and our boss David Mann.
We'll go after it. Now, here's what I'm most excited about for Zach.
We got the heart out.
Yes, we do. Thank you for reminding me. Please finish up the hour.
You got it. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, or the Snore Network if you're Manny Rodriguez.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, away we go. Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Hopefully we don't put you to sleep like Manny Rodriguez this morning, who was sleeping on the job. Despicable. Absolutely despicable. I was just resting my eyes. Come on. What are we doing here? Anyway, I'm looking at the quarterback draft class for 2026. Now, it's not an automatic that all these guys are going to go to the pros, but we just had a quarterback draft class that was rather perceived to be underwhelming. Cam Ward emerged as the clear-cut number 1 guy. Afterward, Jackson Dart, who I didn't think should be a first-round pick, ended up going in the first round. And Shedeur Sanders, who I thought was QB2 of this draft class, didn't go until the 5th round, pick 144 overall. Next year, though, and this is how we perceive these guys to be right now, the quarterback draft class could be enormous, where you could see 5 or potentially 6 quarterbacks go in the first round. And remember last year, or 2 years ago now, 2 drafts ago, we had 6 quarterbacks go in the first 12 picks, as you had Caleb Williams go 1 to Chicago. Then Jaden Daniels go 2 to the Washington Commanders. Drake May go 3 to the New England Patriots. Michael Penix Jr. go 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. And then you had J.J. McCarthy go 10, and then Bo Nix go 12th overall. So I went to this website. They do a good job, NFLDraftBuzz.com. And NFLDraftBuzz.com already has their positional rankings for people that could go to the draft next year. And I go to their quarterback page. There's like 7 potential first-round picks here, maybe even 8. Now, I don't think it will be that many. I'd probably say it would be either 5 or 6. But Arch Manning is discussed. Cade Klubnik is discussed. Drew Aller. Those are the first 3 guys. Manning 1, Klubnik 2, Aller 3, Nico Iamaleava. How crazy is that? In at number 4. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU in at 5. Lenore Sellers in at 6 from South Carolina. Sam Levitt is in at 7 from Arizona State. Now, the other guy that I would potentially consider to be a first-round pick, and he's got a lot of work to do, but Carson Beck is ranked at 10. And remember, now he's at Miami, but he's coming off an injury, and we'll see when he's going to be cleared to play. So let's just look at those 7 or 8 guys that I identified. Not that they will be first-round picks, but you could talk me into them being first-round picks. If Arch Manning comes out of Texas and he doesn't go back for a 4th season, he will absolutely positively be a first-round pick. The only thing with Arch Manning, well, the 2 things is, 1, we haven't seen him play a full season yet at the college level. That's number 1. And number 2, I don't know about you guys, Stu and Samter, but it feels like the feeling around an Arch Manning right now, and the buzz is the word I'm looking for around Arch Manning, is that there's a good chance that this is by design and the Manning family want him to sit a little bit, right? Maybe they only thought he was going to sit for 1 year because then Quinn Ewers would have been off to the NFL. Quinn Ewers ended up starting 2 years at Texas. And with winning the Big 12 and then going to the SEC, he was the right guy to usher in that new era for Texas. And Arch Manning, you saw him in spurts last year with the Quinn Ewers injury, also special packages as well. But it kind of feels like the Manning family wanted him to start 2 years at Texas and then go to the NFL. Would you agree with that, Stu and Samter? That even if Arch Manning has a really good season, it's not an automatic that he forgoes, that last season at Texas, and there's a chance that he ends up coming on back a year from now.
I don't buy it.
You don't?
I'd be shocked if he's not in next year's draft. I just can't imagine, unless he gets hurt or has a really bad season, if he has anywhere near a good season.
You think it will be a number 1 pick, slam dunk?
Yes. It will not even be a debate. It won't be like Andrew Luck, where he tries to, navigate his way. Now, I know the Manning family has been known to do that, but I just think he's going to be there next year.
And the early read is that Cleveland, a reason why they ended up getting that extra first-round pick, is because of the fact that the Haslam family already has their eyes set on Arch Manning. And there was another team that picked up it was the Rams. Could you imagine? Now, I don't really know how it would happen because the Rams are expected to be good this year. But the Niners were expected to be good last year, and they weren't, right? So it's possible a team that's expected to be good takes a step back. Maybe Stafford gets hurt, and that injury just derails their season. Or the pick that they got was from the Falcons, because that was the James Pierce Jr. trade. So I think real quickly, Samter, what do you think the Falcons will be this year? If you just had to throw out a win total without looking at their schedule, just to feel Michael Penix Jr., Bijan Robinson, you got Drake London. They made the 2 moves to the defensive players early in the draft in Jalen Walker and James Pierce in the first round. Just give me a number. Just throw it out there.
10-7.
Okay.
10-7.
So if you either, let's say, you're two wins off in either direction. So at worst, maybe 8 wins. But I think at the absolute worst, if the Falcons absolutely just crap the bed, 7 wins, I would say. 7 wins probably not getting you in the top 5. Could you be 7 wins in the top 10? Yeah, I guess it's possible. So if you are, let's say, the Rams, and I don't think you're going to stink this year, you could then maybe use that first-round pick of your own, if it's in the 20s, to help move up. If, let's say, the Falcons are in the 10th overall pick range, the 11th overall pick range, but still, you're going to have to sweeten the pot a lot more than that. And if it moves into the case where Cleveland is in striking distance, well, Cleveland not only has their own first-round pick, which is going to be a good pick, and then Jacksonville's first-round pick. Even if the Jags are surprising some people and they get 9 wins this year, it's going to be tough for the Rams to be able to jump the Browns if the Browns really want to go make the move for Arch Manning. And also, who knows who will have the number 1 overall pick if it's not the Browns or the Rams, if they or the teams with picks they acquired. Maybe that team is just going to need a quarterback and they will refuse to move off of Arch Manning altogether. So do you think, Samter, when it comes to Arch Manning, Stu doesn't buy it, do you think Arch Manning is back at Texas next year right now, or do you believe that this is all a bunch of smoke and if he just has a pulse, he'll be going to the NFL?
Yeah, I think the Manning idea was have him be in college for 3 years, whatever that looked like. And so I think that whether it's 1 year starting, 2 years starting, I think 3 years was what they wanted. I don't think they need him to stay till his senior year. So I would say for me that this is probably his last year at Texas, unless he bleeps the bed and, or he just doesn't look great, or, the team around him looks worse than it did with Quinn Ewers, and maybe his draft stock is falling a little bit, or he suffers an injury, then maybe he comes back. But if he does half of what we expect him to do, is a Heisman candidate, even a finalist for the Heisman, even if he doesn't win it, brings them to the playoffs and makes a run in the play, then he's going number 1 overall.
Can he live up to the hype? That's the part to me.
What is the hype, though? That's the question.
The hype is that this guy's going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist this year. The hype is that this guy's going to be a first overall pick, and he's going to have to go out there and win a Super Bowl and get a gold jacket. With who his uncles are? Eli, Peyton, that family, Eli has 2 Super Bowl championships, and he'll have a Hall of Fame jacket one day. Peyton Manning, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, 2 Super Bowl championships, and look how long it took him to get the second one, and look how long it took him to get the first one, too, in his career, and that's for one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, and a Hall of Fame jacket. Like, in that family, if you're not a Hall of Famer now and a Super Bowl champion, that would be a disappointment. And those are huge, enormous expectations. But when you have that last name, Manning, and this is not, I'm LeBron's son, but like the hype around Bronny, it never was really met. It wasn't to this level with Arch Manning. And also, let's be real, football is more popular than basketball, and he's playing at Texas, not USC basketball. Could you imagine week 1? Texas has a big game week 1. Oh, who do they? I think it's Ohio State. I'm pretty sure that Texas plays Ohio State week 1. Let me just double check that. It's Texas, Ohio State. His first true year as a starter, defending national champs. Can you imagine this guy throws 4 touchdowns, 375 yards, and opens up a can of whoop ass on Ohio State? And, I say that like a can of whoop ass would be beating him 35-31, like something like that. It's not like I'm expecting him to blow him out. Imagine where the expectations now, which are already saying, this guy needs to be a Hall of Famer. This guy needs to be a Super Bowl champion. This guy's going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist. Imagine then the immediate waves and the shock waves of us basically having this guy bottled up for 2 years on how crazy this would go to. So I look at the whole Arch Manning situation. I would not be actually surprised if he comes back for one more season, because, Samter, to your point, you asked what the expectations are. I think the expectations are going to be massive for him. And I just wonder, and God bless him, I hope he goes on to be a great quarterback, but I wonder, are we just setting the bar incredibly high here? Where most of us, let's be real, have not seen this guy play a full season. Like, who is actually watching him in college that's talking on the radio or listening to the radio right now? Most of us haven't, but that's what we do with prospects. So, you're right. If he does have a good season, that'd be great. But if he has a good season, it's going to be tough to pass up, but you never know what your uncles are going to tell you to do. Because that's a family, like some families, they don't listen to each other, they don't like each other. That's a family that's very close, and they know what they're talking about when it comes to football. Even when they do something, you may be like, I don't know if that's going to work. It ends up working out. Like, look at what happened with Eli. Avoid the Chargers. He goes to the Giants and boom, wins 2 Super Bowls.
It worked out for everyone. Philip Rivers had a pretty decent career there, too. But
he did. Arguably the Hall of Famer, but
yeah,
didn't win a Super Bowl, obviously. Didn't even get to one.
With Arch Manning, though, we know that money's not a factor. He's probably going to make as much money in NILs that he is in the NFL, at least in his first couple of years. And then his family obviously has plenty of money, so you know he's not driven by that aspect. I feel like the Manning family looked at college solely as a stepping stone to make him great for the NFL.
Developing you.
That's why they didn't care whether he sat behind Quinn Ewers. They wanted him to be in an NFL-style offense to learn, to prepare, and that way, once he went to the NFL, he was the best version of himself as possible. And that hype of Arch Manning came in from high school. It's not that it's died down, but they did a great job of just corralling it and not letting his head get too big like maybe it did with Shedeur, and letting Arch just kind of be Arch and learn and kind of sit in the background and let the team do what they had to do without being the star in the front and center. So I think that they did a masterful job of humbling the kid, bringing him along the right way, using Texas as a stepping stone, and getting him prepared to have a great NFL career.
And also, you look at Arch, the dude right now, is there a singular bigger person in college football entering this season than Arch Manning? And think about that. That's with Bill Belichick at UNC. Jordan Hudson's probably going to call us. You didn't mention me. You have Coach Prime, right, at Colorado now without Shedeur, without Travis Hunter. Arch Manning is by far and away the most intriguing player in college football this year. Intriguing person. Because there's been so much talk and so much buildup, and we haven't seen really at him for any extended period of time. I know he started a few games last year and all that stuff when Quinn Ewers got hurt, but where now he is solidified and he has the baton as the guy, the dude of the program.
I feel like that's a good Take 5 Wednesday at some point. Who are the 5 most intriguing people heading into the 2025 college football season?
Yeah, it is. So we'll do that at some point in a month or in the summer, because I'm basically doing it here. Like, you look at these quarterbacks, and these are just quarterbacks, to be fair. And we would broaden the horizons a little bit with that topic. It's a good idea. But Arch Manning, intriguing. Cade Klubnik, to me, is intriguing. This guy was up and down, right, at Clemson. Last year had a really good season. He's got a lot of experience playing college football. The guy threw for 36 touchdowns last year. I think he's fascinating. Like, I would not be sold of Cade Klubnik being a first-round pick right now, but if you tell me, is there a chance? Absolutely there's a chance. Drew Aller. Drew Aller, to me, he's the reason why Notre Dame got to the national championship game. No disrespect to Notre Dame, but he cost them that game. And he was reckless with the football. And I keep on hearing how great Drew Aller is, and he's 6'5", big arm, mobile quarterback, but he's got to really put it together, because the Penn State fan keeps on hyping this kid up, and I got to see him match that. Nico Iamaleava's on this list. Now, he goes from Tennessee to UCLA, and I think how he left Tennessee, it rubbed people the wrong way, but this was a guy last year that we were talking about, you know, down the road with like Dylan Raiola and Arch Manning and Nico Iamaleava, right? Those were 3 guys that we talked about last year. They could be potential very high first-round picks. And Nico was inconsistent last year. Garrett Nussmeier is fascinating. And I think NFL Draft Buzz did a great job in the biggest question about him, because everyone talks about his arm and the numbers that he puts up. Nussmeier enters 2025 as a prospect whose NFL future hangs on 2 critical questions. Can his 200-pound frame withstand the punishment of defenses? And where is the other part of this? Sorry, it just loaded and it just absolutely went away. But anyway, Nussmeier, to me, that frame and the injuries are a concern. I'll tell you, you want to know 2 guys that I'd be very surprised if they're not in the first round next year? Lenore Sellers and Sam Levitt. I think Sam Levitt has a wicked amount of confidence. We walked away from that interview with Sam Levitt that we did, and he's very confident, and that could be described as cocky, and that could rub people the wrong way, but I'm like, that dude's an alpha. That dude's a quarterback. And we're going to find out how great, really, Sam Levitt is this year, because you don't got Cam Scatterbo there anymore. And that was now this becomes his team at Arizona State. But he's a mobile guy with a big arm. And he's got the confidence. There's no doubt about that. And Lenore Sellers, that dude has all the tools. Is he going to be Jalen Milroe, or is he going to put it all together And that dude running the football is electric. Let's see if we get some more consistency with the arm. And I'll tell you, I'm fascinated by Carson Beck. And we talk about this each and every year. How we talk about the draft now is completely different at the end of the draft process next year. Like this time last year, we were talking about Carson Beck being the number 1 overall pick. Carson Beck not only didn't even go to the NFL draft, Carson Beck was going to lose his job at Georgia, and that's why he had to transfer to Miami. So I think those are 7 quarterbacks right there, or 8 quarterbacks with first-round potential, and they got big, big, big things to take care of this year. Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, Nico Iamaleava, Garrett Nussmeier, Lenora Sellers, Sam Levitt, and Carson Beck. If I had to take a stab at this, the 5 guys that will be first-round picks, 5 that will. I'll agree with you guys. Arch has the highest upside, so I'll go Arch in the draft next year, obviously. Hot take, I know. Sizzling. I would then say Sam Levitt, in no order. Lenore Sellers. Garrett Nussmeier. And Drew Aller. Now, I didn't say Cade Klubnik. And I feel bad about leaving him out. Klubnik, to me, just screams. And he's number 2 on this board. But he just kind of screams to me second-round pick. So I looked at this website, NFL Draft Buzz. Their quarterback rankings for next year. Here are their top 7 for the draft. Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, Nico Iamaleava, Garrett Nussmeier, Lenora Sellers, and Sam Levitt. All righty, we'll take a timeout. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll come on back with a news brief.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, George Kittle has a message to fans after his latest extension with the San Francisco 49ers.
What's up, guys? George Kittle here. How you doing? I'm doing great. We got that 4-year extension. Gonna be here plus 10 years. Have a good one. A lot of good times. Get the faithful fired up. Don't you just love good 49ers football, sweetie? Let's go.
So congratulations to George Kittle. Now all eyes are on Brock Purdy and when his deal is going to get done. And I would imagine that would happen rather soon. I would be surprised if we get to week 1 and a deal doesn't get done for Brock Purdy. Let's do this right now. Little pool here. George Kittle just got his extension today on April 29th. Throw me out a random date. When does Brock Purdy get his contract extension with the San Francisco 49ers? Stu?
I will say May 23rd.
May 23rd. So that would be about a month from now. A little less than a month from now. Samter?
Let's go Price is Right rules, May 24th.
May 20. Ooh. Wow.
Screw and Stu right there.
Okay.
Are you going May 25th?
No.
It's going to be before training camp, which is, I guess they start reporting end of June, July.
Well, he showed up for those voluntary workouts that they just had the other day. He was there. That was talked about. So that was April 22nd. That was the first day of the OTAs. Let me see if I could. Right here. May 27th is off-season workouts, and those wrap up on June 5th. Mandatory minicamp is June 10th. I'm going to say it's sooner than you guys think. I'm going to go May 13th. 2 weeks from today. We will have a show, and we will be talking about Brock Purdy rocking out with this Brock out and looking pretty awesome as he signs that new contract extension. I always got to be careful when I say that, by the way. I always fear that I'm going to slip up, and then people are going to be like, oh, look what this guy said on the radio. Diana Rossini. She was on her Scoop City podcast with Chase Daniel. Chase? Really? And Diana Rossini explained what went wrong for Shedeur Sanders in the draft process.
I just want to share with you what one NFL executive said to me. He said, I believe Shedeur approached these visits with teams as a recruiting trip versus a job interview. And there's a difference. Wow. There's a difference in how you carry yourself. There's a difference in the questions you're asking the team. There's a difference how you're answering the questions that are being asked of you. There's a difference in how you're preparing for these meetings. There's a difference in how engaged you are when you're the one trying to get the job versus behaving as if you're the one doing the interviewing. So I think that's where some of this went off the rails a bit. And I did have a team share with me this morning that they wondered, as an organization, if Shedeur had an NFL agent with experience, if that agent would have provided maybe a little bit more insight into the preparation. That way, those interviews go well. I think it could have helped him have a voice of someone who's done this before more recently to say, hey, this is the Cleveland Browns. Andrew Berry's the GM. Kevin Stefanski's the head coach. Here's what Kevin's known for. Here's what Kevin likes. Here's what Andrew Berry likes. This is the offensive coordinator. It's just working together so it's the absolute best presentation when you're sitting in front of that team, not you sitting there interviewing the team as if they're lucky to have you.
Yeah. I'll tell you. Chase Daniel, riveting stuff. Some of your best work. I think Diana's right. I do. I think her information's good there. But with that being said, I like the way she said it. It looked like it was a recruiting trip for him, not a job interview. And if you're on a recruiting trip, it's more so, like the team's trying to suck up to you and like you're just trying to be all flashy and do stuff for social media. And that's not what NFL teams want. Let's go to Chris Carter on the Fully Loaded podcast. What happened with Shedeur Sanders? Here's the Hall of Famer.
The number one thing that didn't happen was there was not a collusion message with the NFL owners, because they wouldn't be able to keep a secret like that. They wouldn't be able to shut up about it. But every owner is very, very selfish. Now, why would I do something to my detriment? Like if I need a quarterback and I think this kid is it, what he didn't realize is the guys that have fallen in the draft before, they all had unusual traits. Like they had some superstar qualities to them. Now, some other things happened that made them fall. But Shedeur and his family, they overplayed their hand. Them thinking that he was in the same evaluation mode as Eli Manning, they didn't play that right. Them trying to narrow the teams that he was going to go to, that didn't do right. Not working out at the combine, that wasn't the right thing. His interview process, obviously he could have done a lot better in that.
I know that.
So it's not the tape. And he likes guys to be a little more open before he lets it go. And he doesn't have a big-time arm. He's not a big guy. He's not overly athletic. So his measurables are not, say, first-round measurables, but he played football like a first-rounder.
Let's hear one more from Chris Carter. Chris Carter said Shedeur cost himself.
Right now, he's working check to check, man. Like, he's not going to get a big signing bonus. There's not going to be a big guarantee. Any day they want to get rid of him in the week, they can get rid of him.
Yeah.
Don't we think Shedeur is smart enough to know he's not at Jackson State and he's not at Colorado?
No.
You don't think so?
I listened to too many of his answers. I saw too many of the outtakes. I saw too many times he was working out with other players, and he said things that I thought were highly questionable for my franchise quarterback.
So like what?
When he was working out with Cam Ward, him and Cam Ward, the number one pick.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you want to cut a rap video together? No, I want to be known as a football player. This whole thing with Deion and the media and everything, like, it's out of control. Like, it did not help him. It helped him make money in college because he got followers, but it actually hurt him as far as him getting a job as an NFL quarterback.
You know what? Whether you agree or disagree with Chris Carter, I kind of respect him. How many of these former NFL players, especially accomplished former NFL players, are afraid to speak their true thoughts on Shedeur or Coach Prime? Right? Chris Carter is a Hall of Famer. Whether you agree or disagree with his opinion, that's irrelevant. His opinion carries weight, and I like that he spoke his mind, and he did so in a very open fashion and a genuine fashion. Let's go to Jason Light, the GM of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the Pat and Aaron Show, WDAE in Tampa Bay. And this is Jason on signing Shiloh Sanders.
We've talked about him quite a bit in the process. Todd would ask me a lot of questions, what we thought of Shiloh and would he be a good fit here? And Saturday night, Todd said that Coach Prime called him and thanked him for us bringing him in and giving him a fair shot. So, yeah, he's going to be just fine here. We'll give him an opportunity to make our team, maybe whether it's a practice squad, the team, or whatever it is. He'll get a fair shot.
I also say this. I have a lot of respect for Shiloh Sanders. Whether you like the Sanders family or not, he sat there with his brother during every pick. And the energy that Shiloh Sanders had and just the genuine happiness and support that he displayed for his brother as he was falling in front of the entire nation, it was cool to see Shiloh Sanders pick up his brother in Shedeur Sanders. I like that. I did. And it's cool to see him land on a roster. And he was a good player at Colorado. Let's go to Derek Carr. So I think he was speaking at like a church. I saw this video online. And he calls out the media for reports about his injury.
Yes, I have a shoulder injury, despite what ESPN says and what some lady on a podcast might think. Okay. I have an MRI report to prove it. The team knows about it. We've been in constant communication. There's nothing wrong. We're figuring it out, and we're going to go forward with that. Is that okay? And I've been dealing with this, and I've been dealing with people lying about me. I've been dealing with them saying this and that, and I'm like, Lord, why do I have to continue to deal with this nonsense? Like, what is going on? Because now all these people think that they have voices that have to be heard. And so like, some people's voices don't need to be heard right now.
I'll just ask a question with this whole Derek Carr situation. Who is he lady on the podcast? Is that some reference?
Diana Rossini.
Oh, she said something about Derek Carr in this whole situation?
She said something where she intimated that this was Carr's camp leaking the information. The team doesn't know a lot about it, and Carr's trying to curry favor and deal with certain things with, how they're looking at a quarterback and everything.
So this is what I would say to Derek Carr. Adam Schefter is the most respected NFL insider in the business. He's even questioning your injury. So, you said you have an injury. Like, what exactly is going on? And why is this such a situation where it seems as if we're not getting the entire truth on this matter? That's all I would say. But, Derek Carr, this guy, I'll tell you, everyone's always out to get him. Everyone's always out to get him, and you hear more of that there. Let's go to President Trump. He was with the Eagles yesterday, or some of the Eagles at the White House. And the first guy that President Trump introduces when you're talking about the Eagles, Big Dom.
We also have to recognize the Eagles' head of security. This is a guy, they say he loves Trump. This is a guy, and I had Saquon give him a big, beautiful hat last night because I've been hearing about this guy. He likes Trump. His name is Dominic DeSandro, Big Dom, and he's sort of a legend. Come here, Dom. Come here. Say a few words, Dom. I hear this guy's just, come here.
Spectacular. I'd just like to say thank you. We're honored to be here. Thank you, President Trump, and that's it. Go Birds. Thank you, guys.
I want to ask Big Dom a question. Are you actually a Trumper? That's my question. Are you actually a big Trump guy? Because Big Dom, if you're just listening to the president, Donald Trump, you would think that Big Dom is the biggest Trump supporter in the world. Let's hear Donald Trump share a story about the New York Giants and a conversation he had with Brian Daboll about Saquon Barkley.
And by the way, I have to tell you something. I was with the Giants and the head coach and some people, and I said, do anything you have to, but don't lose Saquon. They lost Saquon. That was not good. I called that one. That was an easy one to call because he played damn well for the Giants. I can tell you that.
The Giants have refuted this. I kind of want to believe it's true, though. Because it's just so wacky. Like, the President of the United States is somehow with Brian Daboll. And he's like, don't let Saquon Barkley go. Forget the issues in the world. Forget all the things that we expect the president to do. The president could have been a great NFL general manager. Oy. Imagine if Donald Trump was up there and he's just like, and I heard what that nasty Tiki Barber said about you, Saquon. Those nasty things he said about you. Oh, my God. That's something. Jimmy Butler on the Trash Talking with Dillon Brooks. Bum Brooks is back.
Jimmy, you and Dillon got into it. It looked like you guys were having fun. Like, took it back to the playground almost, it looked like. What was it like out there? And it looked like you guys were, going back and forth. Did you enjoy that element of the game?
No, we're not having fun. You give me a break for this. I don't like Dillon Brooks, so we're never having fun. I'm a fierce competitor. He's a fierce competitor. But there ain't nothing fun about that.
Think about Bum Brooks. He goes after LeBron. He goes after Jimmy Butler. This dude's really something. There is no one that likes to just get cooked more than Bum Brooks. Alrighty, let's hear from Draymond Green. One of the best stat lines ever. 6 points, 8 rebounds, 5 fouls, 1 a technical, 1 a flagrant. And this is Draymond Green on his technical foul last night.
Yeah, I got a technical tonight, and there was guys way more aggressive than me. So, yeah, that's crazy.
Never his fault.
Well, what happened overall in that second? I think it was the second quarter, and from the technical, and then
they were trying to muddy the game up, but it's fine. We kept it pushing.
And at the end of the game, Draymond Green made a huge defensive play and then screamed into the cameras and obviously celebrated. So there you go. That's a news brief. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll come on back. We'll hear about Stu's trip to the Windy City. Also, the future of Kirk Cousins. We'll hear from Terry Fontenot on that next. Update time first. Here's the Ackman Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, it's the end of April, but NFL teams still doing lots of business as George Kittle gets a 4-year extension from the 49ers that could take him to the end of his career in San Francisco. The 31-year-old gets $72 million with $40 million in guaranteed money. The 8-year veteran is a 6-time Pro Bowler and one of 5 tight ends that have posted 4 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Andrew Van Ginkel stays in Minnesota on a 1-year deal worth make that $23 million. Rick Tocchet is not returning as coach of the Vancouver Canucks, despite being offered a record contract. The Hurricanes and Maple Leafs can both advance in the Stanley Cup playoffs with wins tonight over the Devils and Senators, respectively. The Sacramento Kings reportedly removing the interim tag and naming Doug Christie their full-time coach after going 27-24 since he took over. The Cavaliers advanced last night. The defending champs will try to join them tonight. Boston up 3-1 on the Magic and hosting tonight's Game 5, while the Knicks will try to move on to round 2 to face the Celtics. They're up 3-1 on Detroit, hosting the Pistons tonight. The Pacers up 3-1 on the Bucks with Game 5 in Indy, and of course, no Damian Lillard, who's done with a torn Achilles. And Denver hosts the Clippers. That series is even at 2. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God. We're back again.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Stuart Kovacs is back from his trip from Chicago. Was that your first time going to Chicago?
First time ever going to Chicago. That's right.
Okay, so you got pizza.
Yes.
What was your review of the pizza?
So I never had traditional Chicago deep dish pizza.
Mhm.
I liked it a lot.
Explain what deep dish pizza is for folks maybe that are not familiar with that style.
So basically, it's circular. It's like
lasagna, almost.
3 or 4 inches deep. A lot of breading, a lot of cheese with some sauce on top, and some toppings inside if you like. But definitely more messy than the traditional pizza.
Thick pizza.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't think it's as good as New York pizza, but
sure.
it was quite good.
You went to where? Illuminati's and
Illuminati's
Giordano?
and Giordano's.
What was better?
I like Giordano's more.
Okay.
It just had more flavor. It was just better all around. The cheese was better. The breading was better. Just all of it I kind of enjoyed more.
Are those places like absolutely swamped? Just like so many people swarming with people?
No, but it takes like 45 minutes to make it.
Oh, because
so you're waiting because they're actually baking this.
Because a thick son of a bitch pizza.
Yeah. It's not like a regular pizza. So you have to wait a little and sometimes get some appetizers, some drinks, whatever. But yes.
You got a hot dog there in Chicago.
I did get a Chicago style hot dog. That was one of the things I wanted to do as well.
For people that aren't familiar, Chicago style hot dog is?
Let's see, it has a hot dog on it, has pickles on it, I think relish, there's
mustard,
tomatoes, there's mustard. Yeah, I believe that is everything that's on it. It was good.
Are you guys anti-ketchup on a hot dog?
I'm not. That's usually the first thing I put on my hot dog is ketchup.
Samter, you're anti-ketchup on a hot dog?
So huge anti-ketchup.
Okay. And then the other thing, I have a question. I need the full review on Wrigley. I just realized this. I've never been to Chicago. Really? I have never been to Chicago. I've traveled a lot. And I've never, obviously, since I haven't been to Chicago, I haven't been to Wrigley. And I've been to a lot of sporting events. I would love to go to Chicago, and I'd love to go to Wrigley, and it's so easy to get to. Give me the whole review of Wrigley.
Wrigley is amazing. Outside of Wrigley, it's called Wrigleyville. It has a bunch of shops and bars, a lot of stuff for you to do outside of the stadium. And then once you get inside, it's just, look, obviously it's an older place, but it just has so much charm and so much character. Just like the perfect place to watch a game. I absolutely loved it.
The one thing I'll say also is if you do go to Wrigley, if you have a chance to go to Chicago, go to a Cubs game, either go to 2 different games or go and do this twice. Go inside the stadium.
Okay.
Catch the game from inside the stadium. Then also, they used to have all these rooftops that overlook in the outfield. They used to just be free. Like if you just live there, you could just go up.
Okay.
Then they had to start, then they worked out a deal with the Cubs where you had to actually start paying for the rights to allow people to watch games from there. So they built
like monster
stadiums,
seats at Fenway?
Sort of, but these are like people's homes, people's apartment buildings. They're not part of the stadium, but because people were watching the games for free, at first they were trying to block the views. Now they just made them part of the seating, but they're private. So you can buy tickets there. People built seats on top of the roofs of their homes. They turned some of the apartments into viewing plazas that you can get food, watch on TV, sit in stadium-style seatings, but it's not in the stadium. It's an apartment across the street from the stadium. It's an incredible way to watch a game. So different, even different than going to like the Green Monster in Boston, where you're still actually in the stadium. This is a completely unique a way to watch a game, like in a suite, just not part of the stadium.
And Stu, you got one of those baseball bats with beer inside of them?
Yes, I did. It is like a hard plastic, probably like 2 feet long bat that they fill with beer. I would guess there's like 3 beers in there.
How much those cost?
I think it was like close to $40. So
it should be like 3 beers at a baseball game.
Yeah, and it is a novelty item, if you will.
So you highly recommend Chicago is what you're saying?
I would highly recommend Chicago, and I could not recommend Wrigley Field more.
Now, you're usually high up. People know about Stu. He's usually very high up into the clouds. Did you go up to those high up seats that Samter was talking about?
I did not. We saw them. I didn't actually know about them, but we were walking before the game, and we saw there was like a website. There, the apartment building has the website. It's like stadium seat. I don't know what it's called.
Did you contemplate going to the Wiener Circle? I told you about this place in Chicago, the Wiener Circle, where you order a hot dog and they just yell profanities at you as you're ordering.
I did not.
Not very romantic, I guess, if you're there with your girlfriend.
Yeah. I probably should have tried to make time for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nah, it's fine.
Did a tour of Soldier Field, too. That was kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. How'd you get into that, Mr. Big Time?
They have tours.
You just signed up?
Yeah. I just bought a ticket. It was like $20. It was very reasonable. And I learned a lot of stuff I didn't know about Soldier Field.
Did they ask you to play quarterback just one day?
They could have, right? I mean, jeez.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay, though, with Caleb Williams now. All right, so cool. Very cool trip. I appreciate you sharing. Let me hear Terry Fontenot, Shine on Sports, Mad Dog Radio, the status of Kirk Cousins and his situation with the Falcons on that contract.
We just have to be patient there, and we always were open with it, not just talking about Kirk, but with really anybody on our roster. We have a lot of those calls with, I've probably talked to already 6 or 7 GMs since the draft has ended, and they're talking about their roster. We're talking about our roster, because after you get through the draft, that shifts some things in terms of needs and surplus and all that. And so we're always patient with those types of things, because if something comes to us with Kirk or any other player that makes sense and it's going to help this team, then we're going to be aggressive and we're going to do it. And if it's not something that's going to ultimately help this team, we always have to ask that question. Is it the best for the Atlanta Falcons? And if it is, we're going to be willing to do it. But all that communication is always ongoing.
What the heck is going to happen with Kirk Cousins? Because I think by principle, he doesn't want to be the backup in Atlanta. I actually will say for him, though, it may be tough to bite the bullet. But let's also remember, up until Michael Penix Jr. got to Washington, this dude was just riddled with injuries. So there's a chance, right, that Michael Penix could get injured this year, and then you're right back up and you got a chance to redeem yourself. And where are you going? Like, Cleveland's now off the table. Everyone thought he was going to Cleveland. I guess the only way you would go to Pittsburgh is if Aaron Rodgers says no. And does anyone actually believe that Aaron Rodgers isn't going to go to the Steelers at this point? It's either retire or go to the Steelers. So I've seen that Minnesota's been floated around. You really got to walk back into Minnesota, though? Now, if J.J. McCarthy doesn't play well, I don't think they're going to bench him. If McCarthy gets hurt, which he missed all last year, different story. Then you go get on in there, and you have some chemistry with Justin Jefferson. You have Hawkinson there. You got Addison there. So you got a good team. I just don't know if there's a spot for Kirk.
I mean, they just traded for Sam Howell. I'm not saying that Sam Howell, but I mean they
in Minnesota. You're saying,
yeah, they just gave up draft capital for Sam Howell.
Yeah, so I wouldn't expect it to be Minnesota.
And if you're the Falcons with the draft already being over,
I would keep him.
Why are you giving up your backup quarterback for a pick next year if it's not going to help you this year?
Yeah, that's fair. It won't be like a premium pick anyway. So who knows? Like you could make a case, could it even help them anyway? But if I'm at Atlanta, I think they kind of played this right. Like, yep, okay, I get it. They signed him and they drafted quarterback 8th overall. Not a smart way to go about it. But you have this contract. You're paying him anyway. I actually respect Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot just giving away for nothing. And there could have been a deal to be made, but at this point, I don't think there's a deal to be made. So if I'm operating this, if I'm Atlanta, I think you're Kirk, you're SOL. Like if there's an opportunity we can trade you, we'll do so. But now you're the backup quarterback and be ready. Because there's a chance Michael Penix goes down this year. Because when he was at Washington, before Washington, Indiana, he got hurt a lot. All right, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. A very fun Tuesday edition of the show. Today's really Thursday for me because tomorrow is the last day I will be working this week as I'm off to Vegas on Thursday morning and I'll be out on Thursday and Friday. So big thanks to Nathan Zegura for joining us. I will be at the Knicks game tonight. Very excited for that. Sitting in a row behind the Knicks bench as we'll see if the Knicks can close out the Pistons tonight. So if you see a large man with a blue T-shirt, which there's a lot of large people with a blue T-shirt on, you may recognize your boy at the game. Bucks Pacers going to be interesting. Could this be the final game of Giannis Antetokounmpo with the Milwaukee Bucks? As the Pacers up 3-1, Celtics look to close out the Magic tonight. They're up 3-1 in that series, and Clippers and Nuggets, which has been excellent. That is all tied up at 2 apiece. Coming off the Gordon sensational winner right at the buzzer. We'll see if the Nuggets could go to Denver tonight and take care of business on their home court at Ball Arena. Stu, thank you. Welcome back. Samta, thank you. And we will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. And a big thank you to each and every one of you for tuning on in, whether you listen to us or watch us on YouTube. We thank you oh so much. All righty, we out. Bye-bye. Peace.